with the exception of Councilmember Nadolski and Councilmember Stevens, who have both asked to be excused tonight. We'll begin tonight with a Pledge of Allegiance offered by Vice Chair White.
Please rise if you are able. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. We would ask that you now join with us in a moment of silence. Thank you. Before we begin, we would just like to remind everyone that October is National Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Breast cancer continues to take its toll in our community and throughout the world. We encourage residents, schools, businesses, and community groups to recognize the importance of early detection and treatment. We appreciate the efforts of the American Cancer Society, the National Breast Cancer Foundation, and other institutions and organizations that encourage breast cancer awareness and prevention in our community. First on the agenda is we have two recognitions tonight. First is the Make Ogden Purple. And we have Councilmember Heyer to read that.
Lopez.
Or sorry, Councilmember Lopez.
I'll do the next one.
Sorry, Councilmember
That's
Lopez.
That's fine. Thank you, Chair. I really appreciate the opportunity to read this very, very important proclamation tonight. And I would also like to acknowledge the presence and welcome two guests that are here for this proclamation to receive this. President of Weber State University, Brad Morrison. Thank you, President, for being here. And Amir Jackson in the back, I think, the founder of Nurture the Creative Mind. Thank you, Amir, for being here. It is an honor for me to declare October 11 through the 16th, 2021, Make Ogden Purple Week in Ogden City. Whereas since the 1800s, Ogden City and Weber State University have been pillars of the area and symbiotic partners to enhance the community and the lives of its residents. There is a sense of pride to live in Ogden and to be a Weber State Wildcat. And whereas in 2013, the College Town Coalition was more formally established through the adoption of a College Town Charter, which was awarded the Larry Abernathy Award, recognizing the strong bond between the university and city. Together, Ogden City and Weber State University collaborate to pursue economic, educational, recreational, social, and cultural initiatives. This effort creates pride and tradition that binds college and town. And whereas Homecoming Week is a long-standing American tradition that brings communities together to rally behind the homecoming team, this year's celebration will mark the beginning of a new effort called Make Ogden Purple, an initiative designed to encourage the Ogden community to show their Wildcat pride all year long. And whereas everyone from business owners to alumni can show their support, their Wildcat pride in many ways, such as wearing purple or prominently displaying the Weber State flag, the Make Ogden Purple initiative is intended to serve as a visual reminder of the connection between Ogden City and Weber State, as well as a representation of community pride. Now, therefore, the Ogden City Council and Mayor Michael P. Caldwell hereby proclaim October 11 through the 16th, 2021, Make Ogden Purple Week in Ogden City. We express our sincere appreciation to Amir Jackson, the Weber State Alumni Association, President Mortensen, for their work to begin this initiative. We encourage residents and businesses to embrace the spirit of Make Ogden Purple, to unite our community in Wildcat pride. And with that, I would like to make a motion to adopt this proclamation, Chair.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Councilmember Lopez and a second by Councilmember Heyer to approve this joint proclamation. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Any opposed? That passes. Thank you.
We would like to invite President Mortensen to please come up to receive, and Amir Jackson to come up and receive the proclamation, please.
Gonna crowd up for a picture?
Yeah, I think we're good. Are we?
Okay, do it.
Shake their hands first.
Hey, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amir. Good to see you.
President? Let me scoot
Come over
over.
here.
There you go. Perfect. Okay. Everybody looking here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Did you take it on 3, Ever? Yeah, we'd love you to say something.
Good evening. My name is Brad Mortensen, and I just want to say thank you very much, Council, and the mayor for recognizing Make Ogden Purple Week. But mostly, I'd like to recognize Amir Jackson and his leadership with the Alumni Association Board of Directors for organizing this whole effort. And if you could please join me in giving Amir a big hand. Thank you. And, everyone, have a great homecoming week next week. Thank you.
Yes.
Can we invite Amir to also say a few words?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Please, if he would like to.
I like action.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you both for this, and we look forward to a great homecoming week. Thank you. Okay. Next up on the agenda is the Community Planning Month. Now it's Councilmember Heyer.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate this opportunity to do this. In a former life, I served as a planning commissioner for about 16 years, and so this is kind of in my blood. So it's my pleasure to do this. We do have a couple of folks from the planning staff here with us tonight. And while we're reading the proclamation, we're making the presentation tomorrow in the Planning Commission meeting. So if you'd like to come back to watch the actual presentation, come back tomorrow about 5. But I'd like to now read this proclamation. This is declaring October 2021 Community Planning Month in Ogden City. Whereas change is constant and affects all cities, towns, suburbs, counties, boroughs, townships, rural areas, and other places. And whereas community planning can help guide this change in a way that provides better choices for how people live and work. And whereas community planning provides an opportunity for all residents to be meaningfully involved in making choices that determine the future of their community. And whereas the benefit of community planning requires public officials and citizens who understand, support, and demand excellence in planning and plan implementation. And whereas the month of October is designated as National Community Planning Month throughout the United States of America and its territories. And whereas planners work to improve the well-being of people living in our communities, taking a comprehensive perspective which leads to safer, more resilient, more equitable, and more prosperous communities. And whereas the American Planning Association and its Professional Institute of the American Institute of Certified Planners endorsed National Community Planning Month as an opportunity to highlight the contributions sound planning and plan implementation make to the quality of our cities and environment. And whereas the celebration of National Community Planning Month gives us the opportunity to publicly recognize the participation and dedication of the members of the planning commissions and all other citizen planners who have contributed their time and expertise to the improvement of Ogden, Utah. And whereas the celebration also gives us the opportunity to recognize the many valuable contributions made by the professional community planners of Ogden, which include the city's planning staff
and the city's Community and Economic Development Department, and extend our heartfelt thanks for the continued commitment to public service by these professionals. Now therefore, be it resolved that the Ogden City Council and Mayor Michael P. Caldwell hereby proclaim October 2021 Community Planning Month in Ogden City. Community Planning Month in Ogden, Utah is part of a nationwide recognition and celebration of community planning and its opportunity to recognize all of the citizens and professional planners who have diligently worked to make Ogden a unique and vibrant place to live, work, learn, and play. And with that, I would make a motion, Chair, that we approve this joint proclamation declaring October 2021 as Community Planning Month in Ogden City.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Councilmember Heyer to adopt this joint proclamation and a second by Councilmember Lopez. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Thank you.
We're going to have our planners take a bow. No. We, after all of that, we got to have a bow. Come on. This is no small endeavor. This is a major effort that keeps our city running smoothly, and it's, you know, it kind of seems you wouldn't recognize how important it is to have planning in a city, and appreciate Greg and his many years, and Barton just for a little while now, right? So, but thank you for the work you do for us.
Thank you. Okay, next we have a request to be on the agenda. We have, I believe it's Kirk Nigro, the regional manager from Rocky Mountain Power, here to present the Blue Sky Legacy Award. I hope I said that name right. I'm sorry if I didn't. But yeah, thank you.
And thank you, and I'll correct, the award will be on the 21st, but we're announcing that you'll be receiving the award, but we did want to make the announcement in this setting, and it is quite an accomplishment for the city of Ogden, and I'm quite excited to be here and make that announcement, and quite an achievement that Ogden is getting this Blue Sky Legacy Award. And I'm grateful to be here on behalf of Rocky Mountain Power for Blue Sky to make this announcement. For 20 years, our customers have come together to support renewable energy through our communities, through Blue Sky. It's remarkable to see the tremendous difference their support has made. Blue Sky celebrates the power of community, and the real challenge that comes with neighbors helping each other has never been more meaningful, whether it's through installing solar panels, to help community service organizations save operating costs, or local wind projects coming online. We are growing sustainable, renewable energies for generations to come. The Blue Sky Legacy Award is an opportunity to recognize forward-thinking organizations and communities like Ogden that initiate sustainable measures to help their communities come together and support renewable energy. We'd like to celebrate the city of Ogden for being a Blue Sky visionary partner for almost 15 years and leading by example to create more sustainable future. Through the Blue Sky program, the city has supported over 146,000 megawatt hours of renewable energy. Because of its example to the community, the citizens are also supporting renewable energy and sustainability. To the tune of 17% of Ogden's residents participate in renewable energy development through Blue Sky or on their own on-site solar generation. By supporting Blue Sky, you're helping create more renewable energy in your own community through Blue Sky Grant Program. There have been 8 Blue Sky Grant projects completed in Ogden, including the Catholic Community Service Headquarters, the Ogden Rescue Mission, and the Ogden Nature Center. The city has supported these projects, which in turn help generate over 2,000 megawatt hours annually each year. The city has also participated in 8 Watt Smart business projects and 6 lighting projects to achieve over 4 million kilowatt hours in savings each year as well. These are incredible milestones, and we're grateful for Ogden, and you well deserving of this incredible Blue Sky Legacy Award, which is the second city to actually receive this award in the state. Congratulations.
Thank you
very much.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Okay. We have one item listed under common consent, the Ogden Natural Resources Stewardship Committee appointments. I would take a motion for that.
Motion that we approve the proposed appointments, reappointments to the Ogden Natural Resources and Sustainability Stewardship Committee, and we need to shorten that name.
That's right.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Councilmember Heyer to adopt the item listed under common consent, and a second by Councilmember Chaburka. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Is Jonathan Melton here by chance? I didn't see him. No? Well, thank you. Next, we have a public hearing, the fiscal year 2022 annual action plan amendment number 1. And tonight we have Ward Ogden, Community Development Manager, here to present to us.
Mr. Chair, members of the council, gotta get my finger registered. There we go. The item before you is the proposal is to adopt a resolution which would amend our annual action plan for fiscal year 22, which would use Ogden's current housing value study in place of HUD's outdated value study to determine maximum value limits for home-assisted homebuyer programs. The annual action plan is an application to HUD for funding for the year. Our fiscal year, of course, starts in July of 21 and ends in June of 22. This plan identifies projects and programs that need to be funded. It details a budget for the year. It describes goals, and it has a citizen participation requirement. And the home grant is to benefit low and moderate income households with housing. And the programs that we use with the home grant are the Own in Ogden program, the neighborhood quality neighborhoods, and the community housing development organization projects. The goals for this year are 45 down payment assistance loans and 7 homes to be developed. And in this amendment, we don't propose any changes to those goals. We also don't propose any changes to the budget. This is just to inform everyone what the budget is for the home grant. We have $250,000 in the Own in Ogden program for down payments, and the Quality Neighborhoods program has $876,000. The Chodo is $68,000, and our administrative funds for the staff administration is $86,000. There are some regulations that govern the homeownership activities. There are some income guidelines, some subsidy limits, and we have some underwriting guidelines. The item that we're talking about today is called the Home Affordability Homeownership Limit. And that is where every home that's assisted, all the single-family homes that are assisted through the home grant may not exceed 95% of the median purchase price of the area. So that's the value limit, or the price limit. And again, these impact the Own in Ogden and the Chodo and the Quality Neighborhoods projects. The method that's typically used to determine this value is done by HUD, and they use FHA insured mortgages. They also use Federal Housing Finance Agency securitized mortgages, and they draw their data from, it's relatively old, it's from July of 2019 through June of 2020, and then a year later it goes into effect, so June of 2021. And the value limit for single family homes as established by HUD is $294,000. buttons aren't working. There we go. There's another method that HUD allows us to use that's an option, and that is where the city can do its own market study. And that method would use multiple listing data and basically from the last quarter of our last fiscal year, the last 3 months, and then for other types of housing, we look back a year just to get enough data to be statistically significant. And by doing this, we're able to raise the maximum price limit for the home-assisted projects, which broadens the window of inventory that people in town can take advantage of through the programs. And because we're doing a different method than has been used in our action plan that we're currently in, we need to do an amendment to that action plan to introduce that different method. We send the study to HUD, and then it's approved. It takes effect upon HUD's approval. The motivations, obviously, as we've said, is that the data that HUD uses is old. It's between 1 and 2 years old by the time we can start using it. Furthermore, we've had rapid price increases. Over the past year, the home price of a single-family home in Ogden has raised 33%. So it's helpful to have a more current look at the market. The method that we use is to use, again, multiple listing data from single-family homes from May through July, and then to get enough data to show, to make a relevant study, we looked a year back on the condominiums, multifamily, and from duplex, triplex, and fourplex, and then on manufactured homes with land. So they have to have land with them. Then we rank them from the lowest to the highest value, and then find the middle value, which is the median, and multiply that median price times 95%, and that becomes the maximum price. It's a fairly simple process to go through, and this is what we've derived: 375 sales of single-family homes with a median value of $335,000, and 95% of that is $318,250. This is really the primary number that we use. We don't assist very many condominiums, although we could with the home ownership program, and manufactured housing and land could be done. We don't really participate much in duplex, triplex, and fourplexes, but again, we run the numbers because that's part of the study that is required. So effectively what we're doing is finding an increase from $294,000 to an updated value of $318,250. Again, that widens the opportunity for the inventory of available homes for people to purchase and use our programs. We did meet with the Citizen Advisory Committee in August and reviewed this method and the proposal, and they made a recommendation to the council that we do the amendment to the action plan. This is the calendar that we've followed so far. August with the CAC, a public comment period through the month of September, and then a work session with the council on September 14th, and our hearing today, and then we'll submit tomorrow if it's approved, and then if that approves, then we'll implement the new value limits. So that's the proposal. Are there any questions?
Seeing none. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion or comments on this item? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Sure, I propose we adopt Resolution 2021-14.
We're not going to take public input? Oh, no, wrong thing. Sorry. I apologize.
Oh, it's public. Okay,
Oh,
sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry, my fault. Yeah,
Oh, it is.
Thank you.
Oh, no. I was
So-
actually.
that was my, we will now take public input on this item. If anyone would like to speak to this issue. Okay.
Chair, seeing no movement, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Chair Belair,
Yes.
we do have a hand on Zoom.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Okay.
I'll hold that motion.
That'd be great. Thank you, Angel Castilla. The time is yours.
Good evening, Council. Angel Castillo, Ogden resident. I 100% wholeheartedly support this, considering I've been talking to you about raising what the limit is since Andy Beatles and Dr. Jenny Nagy presented to you in 2018 with regards to housing. I think it's really important that we're doing this, and it's exciting, and I'm really grateful, but I want to make sure that we're still considering, as we look at the Own in Ogden program, that we're going to be changing how we build homes. With this goal of 7 homes, we aren't going to continue to hit it, because in July 2021, the average sale of a single family home in Ogden is $351,000. That's $209.86 a square foot, with an average of 17 days on the market. We need to adjust our code to have smaller lot limits, smaller setbacks, so that we can allow people to invest and build prosperity by purchasing in Ogden. So I beg you to please continue to consider how we can build more smaller homes with the limited property that we can purchase. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Okay.
I make a motion for public hearing.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion to close the public hearing by Councilmember Heyer and a second by Councilmember Chaburka. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. And now I would entertain a motion on this item.
With that, I propose we adopt proposed resolution 2021-14, adopting the amendment number 1 of the annual action plan.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Vice Chair White to adopt proposed resolution 2021-14 and a second by Councilmember Chaburka. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Chaburka. Aye. Councilmember Heyer.
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez.
Aye.
Vice Chair White.
Aye.
Chair Blair.
Aye. Thank you. That passes. Next up, we have reports from the Planning Commission. First is the rezone at 550 East, 900 North. And we have Greg Montgomery here.
Chair and members of the council, the Planning Commission reviewed a petition that was filed to rezone a parcel of property along 900 North. It's a old LDS church site, and the petitioner is asking it to be rezoned from R16 to R3. Let's see. There we go. Here's the location of that property. To the east are single-family homes. To the west is a care facility. To the south are townhomes, and then to the north is a mobile home park. So you see it's located in an area of transition where you have a lot of different uses taking place, and this is kind of that center point. As I mentioned, its request is to rezone the property. It's 2.8 acres, and the intent is to develop the property as multifamily. So one of the things we take a look at is what is presently allowed in the existing zone. And under the R16 zone, there's a couple options that could be developed if the building were torn down. You could develop 5 lots just using the frontage along 900 North. Or by adding a cul-de-sac into the area, you could create 8 lots of areas for single-family homes. The ordinance also allows you reusing the existing church building for a variety of uses under reuse of a building that's permitted in the zone but is not residential. Such uses as a nursing home, professional business offices, even 20 dwelling units converting the existing building into that could take place without any zoning change. Under the proposed R3 zone, There's a variety of things that could also take place. R3 would allow a 59-unit apartment building, assisted living, nursing home, single-family, duplex, fourplex development on the property. The intent of the petitioner is to develop a group dwelling here, meaning more than one building be proposed to be townhomes of 40 total units on the property. And so this is the proposed concept plan the developer had submitted, saying this is what his intent is of rezoning it to R3 and to have that type of development take place. When the Planning Commission takes a look at these types of projects, the first thing they look at is the general plan policies regarding zoning. And a couple of the key criteria are setting definite edges and buffering between zones. That buffering being taking place in terms of fences, types of uses that exist. They also look at the zoning. Does it reflect the character of the area unless the area is in transition? As I mentioned, the area around this is mainly all developed out, with the mobile home park to the one side, the single-family homes to the other side, the townhomes to the other side, and the care facility. So there's really no other development taking place in the area. This is kind of an infill type. So it's saying, is this request being consistent with that character of that area? The other standard that's in the ordinance that the commission looks at is that the zoning be the same on local streets or similar. In this case, it's RMH1 mobile home to the north across 900. And then, as I mentioned, this is R16. So those are some factors that they take a look at. They also take a look at, is this area transitioning? Does this go from a higher density, which may be along Washington Boulevard, transitioning down to something lower as you get more into the neighborhood? And then does this concept for development reflect the overall neighborhood character and how residents interact within those neighborhoods? As the commission talked about these items, even though you do have an R4 zone along Washington Boulevard, and this will be decreasing the intensity to R3, there is some consideration that does the nursing home and other uses act as that transition from that R4 down to the R1? And does the fact that with it being a church building, it kind of is an activity area that is, not a consistent use, but the other uses on either direction, whether it be single-family homes in the R1 zone or the single-family homes in the R4 zone, have more of a consistent activity taking place. And so this is kind of a, if you will, a less intense use in terms of existing uses of the nursing home and the church from what normally you'd find in the neighborhood. And so does that dead space, does rezoning that create more activity taking place and linking between the different residential neighborhoods? So one of the things we took a look at then is the existing zoning. As I mentioned, the uses that are to the west and to the south, those are both zoned R3. And so one of the considerations is, with that wrapping around two sides of the property, is that more consistent to rezone at R3 than leaving it as R16 for future uses once this building is demolished? And what would that look like? And what could that look like? One of the things I think is important to note is, as we've talked about earlier in other presentations, the amount of multifamily housing being developed in the community and in the city. In this case, the Mountain Lewis community hasn't seen a lot of new development take place. The only new construction in the last 2 years in terms of multifamily was the Sunset Point over by the Mount Airy Park. Other than that, all the other apartments and all that are being built right now are further to the south. Link community having some, Hillcrest having some, but more of it taking place even south from this area. When we look at the Mount Lewis community, present housing makeup, 71% of the community is made up of single-family detached homes. 11% are made up of the mobile homes, and there being 2 mobile home parks in this community. And then single-family row house or townhomes make up 4% of the housing stock. And then the rest of the types of development, as you can see in this pie chart, are a variety of duplexes, fourplexes, assisted living, and large developments that are multi-family type developments. Those developments have mainly taken place over the last 20 years in this community. And so I think that's one thing to take a look at. There's a wide variety of different types of housing types in this community, but the predominant has been single family. One of the things that's always discussed is densities, and trying to get a picture of what densities are. I know a lot of things are talked about of high density trailer park or a high density development. Density is always kind of relative on two things. There's general scale of density and what is considered low, moderate, and high density. But then again, the density for is it high also is relative to what is around it. In this case, the single family has a general density of 5.8 units per acre. The mobile home has 6.7 units an acre. The townhome that's immediately to the south of this property is 12 units an acre. You look at another townhome project that's more into the middle of the neighborhood at 13 units an acre. And then the apartment complex on Washington Boulevard at 15 units an acre. So when you look at 5.8 units as the general density, as I said, 71% of the neighborhood is single family, and you look at 15 for the apartment complex, some of these older developments, you may say, okay, that is high density because that's 2.5 times the density of the single family area. But when you look at densities per se of densities on a scale, generally high density is somewhere between 25 to 50 units an acre. Medium density is somewhere between 12 to 20 units an acre. And low density is anywhere between 1 to 12 units an acre. So the reference of the high density mobile home park is it's not much different in density as the single family homes, 0.9 units an acre. The townhomes that are to the south are 12 units an acre. And so you look at that being the boundary along this property and say, okay, what then makes the boundary line between the single family homes and the other uses? So that's one of the considerations that are made when you look at is it appropriate to rezone the property or do you keep it as R16? So we looked at the prevailing character of the area. And again, as I mentioned, it's predominantly single family for the general community. And in this case, the east and a portion of the north are single family also that abut this property. And the Viking Villa mobile home park, again, is a single family, though it's not traditional single family detached lots, it's still single family units done as the mobile homes. And so kind of looking at the various characters of the development types. Also, again, what is the appropriate edge where two sides of the property are wrapped around with R3 zone and the back of the homes along Jefferson back onto both R3 and to the church property or the former church property. Is it better to create the edge along that back of the homes, or do you use the existing edges created with the R3 zone as that appropriate edge? Would multiple family then add additional buffers and screening that a single family home was not required to have? Those are questions that the Commission discussed in terms of what are the appropriate edges for zoning. And how do you keep a consistency of not having those different jogs take place in the neighborhood? The question of the zoning on the same side of the street. Again, the mobile home, the Viking Villa versus the church, the transition, all those items were part of the discussion of the Planning Commission. And the final determination the Planning Commission made in their recommendation to you is that really the back of the homes along Jefferson become that transition area or the boundary or the edge of between the R1 and the R3 zoning, and that seemed to be more consistent in keeping that continuity along that area. So the Planning Commission has recommended to you on a 6-0 vote to recommend approval from R16 to R3. Questions you may have?
Chair, I have one question.
Yes, please.
Greg, when you were talking about the DUA, I think that's what it's called, the
Dwelling units
density,
per acre.
what would the proposal for the townhomes for this area be? Or do you know that off the top of your head?
Okay, so if you had the 40 units that they're proposing, that'd be somewhere around 13.5.
Okay, thank you.
Which is the zoning that would keep these as single family?
Well, the present R16 is, I was just going to go back. Oh, I went the wrong direction. There. The R16 zoning would keep it single-family development, and that's where potential options would be, 5 to 8 single-family residential lots could be developed on the property, or reuse of the church building to other uses. So under the R16, that could take place.
Thank you.
Greg, is there a way to keep that residential, the R16, however, lowering the lot size, making them smaller lots? Is that a possibility?
Rezoning it to R15, that's our smallest.
That's our smallest?
And that's 5,000 square feet per lot.
Okay.
But with the way it's set up, could that work? I guess that's my question.
You wouldn't get much gain out of that because of the lot width, the frontage along 900.
You got some of those long, skinny houses.
Yeah,
about-
you create, yeah.
Still about 8 lots.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know, this may be a topic for another day, but I'm curious, when you say that's the smallest lot size we have, you said 5,000, right?
Correct.
So have we ever considered something smaller than that? Are there other areas of the state that do smaller lots, single-family lots than that? I'm just curious.
Well, we have smaller lots in Ogden, South East Central is a 4,000 square foot lot.
Okay.
But again, this is not in East Central, so it doesn't have those same characteristics. You look at the homes in this area and trying to keep those same characteristics, they really are around 6,000 to 7,000 square foot lots. So that's the question of characteristic, because what you have existing there now and the densities have been developed, and what would the R15 gain you really in terms of this property?
Okay.
Do you mind showing us the slide with the proposed development plan? And I do really appreciate all that data you provided about the neighborhood. That's something we were asking at the strategy session the other day is, how do we know the makeup of our neighborhood? So I really appreciate that.
Yeah. So this is the proposal the developer has given that he would like to do. Now, I'll just add that this is the concept. And the only thing we checked on this is some general standards that, yes, given the size of the property and given the layout of this, 40 units would be allowed under the zone. But it would have to go through the group dwelling process, and it may or may not get 40 units after the other standards of the group dwelling are applied, such as the open space and dedication of certain things of common area and those type of things. So
These are townhomes, right?
that's the proposal. Well, and I should couch that. So that is the proposal. I think one of the concerns that always takes place when you look at zoning, and why I give this list of what's allowed in the R3, is that any of those things are possible if you rezone it to R3. If you don't have a conditional overlay saying if it were not for this specific project, we wouldn't rezone it this way, then you realize that any of these things could take place. If you rezone it as a conditional overlay and you say, we're rezoning it and it's only going to be for townhomes, this and this and this standard, that is always one control that you do have. That's not what the petition is, but that is always a control you have if you're looking at any consideration of anything more than single-family lots.
How
But
tall?
if you just do R3 in and of itself, you open up all those options.
It might be in my packet, but I just don't remember. How tall could an apartment building be there?
Well, in the R3 zone, there is no height limit. The distance from property line is determined by, once you go over 35 feet, which is a typical single-family home, excuse me, 2.5-story single-family home, then the setback increases on a 1-to-1 ratio. The higher you go above 35 feet, then you have an additional foot setback, keeping that 1-to-1 ratio moving away from the property line. But it still doesn't limit the height of the building.
So Greg, going with this, with the townhouse or the townhouse plan, 40 would be the max he could put on there. You're thinking,
Yeah.
It hasn't been through the group dwelling,
But it hasn't been reviewed. But,
Yeah.
but based on the area calculations, 40 is
40 would be the max. There might be a few less, but it wouldn't be more.
correct.
Correct, okay.
And the project right behind it, how many units are there in that one?
24.
24.
But this is a bigger lot.
Yeah.
Are those townhomes too?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They're a mixture of 2 and 4 unit.
Yeah, they work more like a duplex would. They're ground to top, all one unit, so they're not stacked on top of one another.
Yeah, I mean, that's my biggest concern is the height of a possible apartment building. I'm just not sure how
Yeah.
that fits into the community.
In the group dwelling ordinance, the height, even if it's zoned R3 as a group dwelling, the height is 35 feet, which you find typically in a single family area.
I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around exactly how these smaller single-family lots might not fit with the with the layout of the neighborhood. I mean, I get just from a simple, from a simple point of view, it's just, I mean, just a smaller home, a smaller lot, a smaller home,
Right.
and I get that.
Do not look like this.
But in my mind, what I've been thinking about is that,
They're just two and
it's hard to talk about it here because this is kind of related to the conversation we had at our strategic planning meeting about housing, which is a long conversation that we have a hard time really coming to agreements as to what we should do, and a lot of the big cities are coping with the same concerns and issues, which is just how do we create affordable housing and all that stuff. So it's hard for me to address that here without going too much into the larger problem. But I think that what the residents in that neighborhood are thinking about is, preservation of the neighborhood for single family. And then what I'm thinking about is, I agree, but why can we now start thinking more progressively as far as, thinking about smaller size lots so that we can have a few more homes, single family homes in these smaller size lots. So
maybe I can answer. I pulled the slide up to just kind of help, because this is just a limited parcel. I mean, it's surrounded on all sides by development already. And a smaller lot, while it would have a smaller lot frontage because of the depth of this, it's still not going to be a 5,000 square foot lot. It'll still probably be a little less than half an acre in size, even though the zone could be R15. All they do is reduce the front width, but because of the depth of the lot, unless you put an option 2, another public street in, and at that point, as you do that, again, to get the cul-de-sac and then still the overall width, you still may say, okay, we're going to reduce the lot frontage, but your lots are still going to be 8,000 to 10,000 square feet in order to all face the road. And so while an idea, it says, okay, R15 is a smaller lot, because of the consignment of the shape of this property, your lots are not going to be smaller. Just the lot width will be smaller, but the total square footage will still be, you know,
Of the lot.
a half acre, or if you go the other option, 10,000 square feet.
Yeah.
And that's, like I said, because you're not dealing with a whole blank slate. It's all developed around it, and the dip's already set.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Greg.
With Greg, with a conditional overlay, I based on previous discussions, I know that an apartment building is not welcomed.
Mhm.
So if we were to rezone this at all, and we did a conditional overlay, what would that conditional overlay look like? Would it be a certain number of townhomes? Would it be just conditional overlay as long as it is townhomes? Conditional overlay as long as it's this or that? What?
Well, I think it'd be those things that you feel are appropriate, that this is why you'd consider rezoning it. What are the factors? Is it height being one of those issues? Is it setback and open space, you know, from the other properties? Is it, again, that it is a townhome only?
Okay.
Not, because again, a group dwelling could be a series of fourplexes too.
Mm-hmm.
And they could still fill that up as a group dwelling, but it wouldn't be a townhome or single-family row house, whatever terminology you want to use. In other words, you live all the way from ground to roof.
Okay.
So setting those stipulations would be one of those considerations. You always can set a standard saying, well, even though the zone will allow these many units, these are what we feel is appropriate.
Okay, that was my.
Those are different
Yep.
characteristics that you could do if you consider that.
Thank you.
Chair?
Yes, please.
Would there be any merit to try to explain a little bit more what that means, the conditional overlay for the citizens that are here? I mean, sometimes I have a hard time remembering exactly
Sure.
what that is for. Is that okay?
Yeah. So what a conditional overlay is that typically you're saying if it were not for a specific type of development, we would not rezone it because it'd open up all these other options. So we're going to tie that zoning to a development agreement saying these are the conditions by which we're rezoning the property. And you need to meet these conditions for this zone to take place. If you know, you decide to sell the property after you get the conditional overlay, there's an expiration that can be revoked, so it goes back to the old zoning. It also then says, even though the ordinance may allow you these things, these are the things we feel that are needed to make this compatible to the neighborhood. And so you can add additional standards because that's why you're rezoning it. Otherwise, you say, I just deny the zone and let it stay as R1.
So, for example, a conditional overlay could be drafted in a way that only townhomes could be built in that property,
Correct,
not
even
an
though the
apartment
R3
complex
allows
or
it.
not, or
Correct.
et cetera, right? Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Was that the end of?
Just
Your
questions,
stuff?
yeah,
Yep.
whatever. I'm just following your questions.
Yeah. Are there any more questions for Greg?
Okay.
Awesome.
Thanks again, Greg. I really love that extra information.
And I believe we have the petitioner, is Mr. Diamond, yep, here.
I'd like to thank the mayor and the council for allowing us to be on the agenda today when we, I'm a little introduction on myself. I'm born and raised here in Weber County, grew up in Pleasant View, and my grandfather was actually the assistant to the mayor and chairman of the planning commission way back when, and my father was the mayor of Pleasant View City, and I've been on the city council and planning commission out in Plain City, so I appreciate your And thank you for your service and working on trying to make the best decisions for the city. And I see where your concerns are coming from. But I've also I'm a banker by profession, but I've done a few developments on the side. I was the developer, one of the developers that developed the multi-story apartment project there on 2nd Street in Washington. It's called The Lofts at 5 Points. And I was one of the partners on the developments that's on the townhome project out to the Weaverview. We call it Weaver Mountain View Townhomes out by the fairgrounds. And those are two different style projects. One is a very nice townhome style project, and one is a nice tall multifamily project. So when we were looking for a project to do with a couple of my partners, we came across this old church property. And just to give you some background, when the church puts a piece of property up for sale, they kind of control everything, every aspect of that. And so they put right in the purchase agreement that I have to tear the building down. Even though the zone, like Greg pointed out, would allow that building to be used for other things, the church put that right in the purchase contract that I do have to tear the church down. I have 120 days to demolish it. So I don't have the option of using it for an assisted living facility or dance studio. Some of their buildings, they do allow that type of thing, but for some reason on this one, they said it had to come down. And so then we looked at, before we purchased it, and said, okay, what is the current zoning on the property? I got with the city and the planning department to see if the Mount Lewis community plan had any specifics for that area that had been earmarked, and there was no specifics on there. We looked at the R16 zone, did a preliminary sketch of how many homes, single-family homes we could put on there. I don't know if a little bit different design than the cul-de-sac that Greg pointed out, but we had a little different design with a T and a few more homes on there. We got with the local realtors, asked them what they thought about that project. If we were to build, in order to build single-family homes on that project, they would have to be extremely small because they are across the street from the trailer park and the assisted living facility. We got with those realtors, asked them about what price point we would need to be in, what's similar in the area, and I think that earlier discussion showed what the medium was about for the area and for Ogden City, and the price point was going to be somewhere around $250,000 to $300,000, and they said, but you will have no problem selling them. They will be sold to out-of-state investors the day the paint's dry, and they will make them rentals because of that price point. And so we looked at it and said, in my mind, that doesn't benefit that community. If I sell those all and take my money and be done the minute they're done and sell them to investors and they make them rentals, 2 years from now, the landscaping is going to be dead. The broken down cars are going to be parked in the front yard, because they will be bigger size lots too. They'll have all that excess room. And I didn't feel like that would be a benefit to the community. And so then we looked at, okay, if we rezoned it to the R3 zone and did a nice townhome project, it would work. We looked at the zone and saw that it would have allowed the 50-something units and 5 stories type of thing, but that's not the project for that area. And I said, I don't want to build that type of a project. So our intent is to build just a 2-story townhome project that's got 2-car garages on every unit. The main floor would be their garage, their front room, family room, kitchen, and then upstairs would be the 2 and 3 bedrooms. So that's the type of project that I felt would be desirable for that area. There's not a lot of new things that have been built in that whole community for quite a bit of time that Greg pointed out. And so that was our intent. And when the church put it on the market, one of their conditions was that they would not consider any offers from anybody that put conditions on their offer that said you had to get city approvals or had to get a zoning change done or whatnot. So they basically made you buy it, just put up the price and we'll take a price and no conditions. And so that's why we took the time to look at those different options. I can pencil it out on building some very small 900 square foot single family homes and sell them to the investors and make some money. But that's not what we want to do. We want to own it. We want to maintain it. If we can do a townhome project, we will maintain the ownership of it. We keep it nice. There's tricks that a developer and an apartment managers can do to keep them nice. The examples that I like to show is like on my Mountain View projects. We're very pet friendly, but we DNA test every pet. And if we find dog manure on the grass, we send it in, we find out whose dog it is, and they get a $250 fine. So you don't let the dog stay on the grass. If you don't bring your garbage can in within 24 hours of garbage day, you get a $15 fine. Now, that may seem excessive to some, but that's what keeps them nice. And my intent is to keep it nice. We'll put restrictions on it. We keep the paint fresh, we keep the landscaping nice, and so it's a benefit to the community. And so that's why we're asking if we can rezone it. That preliminary design is what the architects have put together, showing what could possibly be there. I have no problem if we need to do it with a development agreement in order to protect that. I don't want to build anything other than those townhomes. So if that's the proper way to do it, we can work to that. And so it would just stay as a townhome project. But that's what we're asking the council to consider for us today. And I'm old school. I hate seeing us tear that church down because there was so much neat stuff in it, so much wood in it. So we've been slowly letting people repurpose some of that, the chairs and some of the wood and the hardwood floor they're making tables out of and that kind of stuff. But it is a little bit tough to see us tear that church down. But we were able to, I think we had a little we opened the time capsule a couple weeks ago and got some real cool stuff out of there, and so that was kind of neat. And I think they're going to display that here soon in some type of a church event. So anyway, I appreciate your consideration, and if you've got any questions, I'd be glad to try and answer them.
So what's the, thank you so much for your presentation. What is the assurance that these townhomes won't be sold? You're saying, you will maintain them and do all that stuff, which sounds very nice. I'm just wondering how it works that if they were to be sold individually, then I guess it would be similar to investors buying the single property homes.
Well, we currently only have one tax ID number. And so if I was to sell the project, I would have to sell the whole thing as a complete project. It would be a whole nother procedural thing for me to go in and individually tax ID those into 140 or into 40 units so that I could sell them as individual units. And if you did that, then you would have to do a homeowners association to maintain the open space and all that. But right now, we're not asking
Sure.
for you to rezone it into
No,
40
and I
units.
understand that. I'm just wondering because I don't know how that works. How could that community be in the future be protected so that wouldn't happen? I was just curious.
Well, and that's where procedurally, you just wouldn't allow it to be subdivided because it's just one tax ID number now.
Gotcha. Thank you.
So do you have a number of townhomes that you would be looking to do?
So I think the architects have worked through the numbers that would be allowed in that zone, and that 40 is what they come up with. We'll work very closely with Greg's office and the planning department to see what fits, and if we've missed something and whatnot, it wouldn't go over that 40.
Okay.
The layout, the way that the property is laid out in size-wise, that concept works with the kind of the double T layout. Our intent is to have as much open space as required. There will be dog parks. I'm a little, with the current water situation, the city's ordinances on how much green space and trees and shrubs and whatnot is probably a little bit problematic in today's world. We have no problem complying with all of that. I mean, the number of trees I had to put in the Mountain View project and the Second Street project was, it's huge, hundreds of trees, but you have to water those trees. So I don't know what the city has in mind and the planning department has in mind and maybe trying to tweak that, but we'll comply with everything that's inside of that ordinance. If we need to work directly with planning and to come up with that, if you decide to do some type of development agreement that just allows the townhomes, the two-story townhome, and it includes also some landscaping issues, then we can work with that.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Diamond?
Yeah, I do. I saw the proposed layout, and I'm looking at the satellite view of the maps. And the property that the church currently sits on looks to be maybe, in comparison to the size of the townhomes that are directly to the south. There's 24 units there. They're also very dense. I don't know how you're going to get 40 plus a dog park plus those other amenities that you propose on that plan. How are you going to do that?
Well, you can see the overlay. Greg showed you that, and they're dimension-wise, they do fit in there. They do have all two-car garages. They're all approximately 1,000 square foot in living space. The dog park there is in the grass area that borders the fence with the property to the south, the retention ponds, the landscaping features. So, I mean, it fits. Yes, it's tight, but those units fits. So I don't know how big the townhome projects are that's to the south of it. I don't know what their square footage is. I mean, the Mountain View ones of course, wouldn't fit here. They're huge. They're 1,400 square foot units. And so that particular project wouldn't fit this many here. But based on this demographics and this market area, the market analysis we did show that we needed to stay smaller so that the rents could be affordable. I mean, I don't want to have to build a project that takes $1,800 a month rents. That wouldn't fit that neighborhood. And so these will be smaller units. They'll be 900 to 1,000 square foot with their 2-car garage.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Mhm.
Yeah, I just wondered if anybody wanted to have a discussion before we open it up to public input. It seems like we might be getting some different ideas than what was presented, so. From a conditional overlay to.
I ask all the questions that I mean, between the questions you ask and that I ask, I got everything I needed. I'd love to hear from the residents because that might help me, formulate the course that I want to take. That's me personally.
Yeah, I think that will help inform our discussion.
Yeah, so maybe the discussion probably
Okay.
after the public input.
Sounds good. So we will now receive public input on the rezone at 550 East, 900 North. Please come up here, state your name and address for the record, and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Chair, I don't know if it matters that much, but the address is actually technically wrong. That is an address on the north side of the street. I believe it's 555 East, just for the record. So.
We're talking about the wrong place.
Good evening, council members. Lisa Took, and I live on 621 East, 925 North. So where the church is, as the road curves, I'm pretty much right on the corner. So I wrote all of you an email that you might have seen. I'm just going to reread a couple of things from that. So it was brought to my attention that there's been a proposal made for the property at 550 East, 900 North in Ogden to be rezoned and increased from single-family housing to multifamily dwellings and multi-level apartments. I implore all of you to vote against this. My reasons are 900 North already has access to that mobile home park, and traffic onto Washington Boulevard is already very crowded. It's congested, it's hazardous. My husband has almost been hit by a car while he's been getting the mail. So maybe we could discuss speed bumps later. So there are also too many people that speed on the street, as I mentioned, and the extra traffic or activity is unwelcomed. We absolutely do not need nor want multi-level apartment complexes, multifamily dwellings, crowding it up even more. Even 40 townhomes is too much. My thoughts behind that, every family doesn't only have one car for the most part. So you got to think 40 people moving in, double that, that's 80 extra cars on the street, and more if they have teenagers that drive. Rental apartments do not increase neighborhood home values, nor do they create pride of ownership or longevity, but I think with talking about the townhomes, that would create a little bit more longevity. I've lived in Utah my entire life, and I'm tired of seeing developers come in and bully their way into making every free piece of land a crowded, congested space, all for the sake of greed and stuffing their pockets with money, with no regard to how this affects the hardworking people who live in these areas. We could use nice, affordable homes or patio homes in this area, not apartment complexes, but as it was addressed, we could do townhomes, not 40 of them. I understand that Utah is growing, but I would much rather see single-family housing go in rather than a huge apartment complex that will only further exacerbate our already increasingly busy street and surrounding community. I sincerely hope that the Planning Commission, council members, and administration do not feel obligated to change the zoning regulations for developers so that they can make more money at the expense of property owners that have vested interest, love, and pride for their neighborhood. There is one last thing, and then I will be done. I don't know if any of you have been up to Causey or Pineview lately, but the more people that we put in, I am just worried that the more that we do that, the less natural resources we will have in the future. I've lived in Utah my entire life, 38 years, and I've never seen it be this bad. But thank you for listening. Thank you for your time. Have a great night.
My name is Rebecca Hansen, and I live at 933 North Jefferson Avenue. I work in city government, county government, so I can appreciate the push to develop and to make a community better. But as far as this particular area goes, a new housing development isn't really what we need. I did send a wordy email to all of you this afternoon, but I also showed a picture of the parcel map of our area, and it is highly dense. It's very densely populated. There's a lot of houses and then the trailer park, and it's a nice trailer park. I have no complaints against it. There are just a lot of people in the neighborhood. There's a lot of children, and I also have concerns about traffic, and the one entrance that we would all have off of 900 North is on Washington Boulevard, and a lot of us turn left, and then it shares a left turn lane onto Larson, which doesn't have an arrow to turn right, and then also with the Exxon. So there's a lot of collision risks, and there's a lot of there's also a lot of children in that neighborhood as well, and a lot of traffic already is just a worried increase. But I feel like that the space that's available in our area could be allocated to something more useful, community center, a library, a school, something that would kind of help elevate the neighborhood, rather than put in brand new fancy townhomes, which would be a stark socioeconomic contrast to what is already present in that neighborhood. And so I think attention turned to that lot would be something that in that already densely populated neighborhood could, share a park, something like that. But more people is not what we need. And townhomes are not necessarily what we need. And so I hope you would take that into consideration. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Rebecca.
My name is Tara Rodriguez. My address is 587 East, 825 North. I live in the townhomes that are directly south of this property. Our main concern right now is with, like was stated, 40 units, you're looking at 80 vehicles plus. Every single one of those vehicles almost will be doing their headlights directly into our back windows. We would like to know what is going to be put in place to help protect our privacy, as well as all 14 units on the back of that. All of their lights for their driveways and front doors are going to be coming into our area as well. So right now we have been living there with the church where maybe we had traffic once a month or once a weekend. So this is a huge increase in traffic, a huge increase in noise. 40 people, 40 homes in that little area, that's a lot. I mean, our lot is, it's not quite as big, but it's about the same size. And we have 24 units. And trust me, our neighbors are close to each other. I feel it every day. So to have 40 of them in there, that it just seems excessive. As well as the idea of a place for the dogs to go to the bathroom on our property line. Yes, I understand you said that you're going to do DNA testing and stuff, but that doesn't mean it's not going to stink at some point. And to condense it all into one area like that. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
My name's Aline Evans, and I live at 618 East, 1050 North, and I appreciate Greg's presentation, Greg Montgomery's, and also the information that Mr. Diamond has shared on his development. But I wanted to bring up, a few years ago, Ogden City Planning Department worked with the residents on our Mount Lewis Community Plan. The project was lengthy, took months, and very detailed. The project investigated, discovered, and decided on the future of our beautiful neighborhood from North Street to the North City boundary. This detailed report can be located by Googling Mount Lewis Community Plan. This will pull up a 35-page document. On page 15 of this report is the land use section. The second paragraph states, all new residential development east of Adams Avenue, which is 500 East, should be of single-family dwelling unit variety. A very important part of the project was zoning, which allows for development, uses, and density of this area. Currently, a developer has submitted a request to change the Mount Lewis Community Plan and do spot zoning of the current R16 single-family home zoning at 550 East, 900 North to be increased for multifamily dwellings and higher density. For the property, developer is requesting R13 zoning, which would allow development such as the new development at 2nd and Wall, 165 North Harrisville Road, and 487 2nd Street, the Loft. A notice letter from Ogden City for this change request was only sent to those properties within 300 feet of the church property. The Mount Lewis community was not notified. 900 North has already been discussed as high density for traffic. There's the middle section of the mobile home park. That's their only resource, is that road. Getting onto Washington Boulevard also includes a T intersection from Larson Lane between 900 North and 1100 North. It's extremely congested, hazardous, and has been deadly numerous times already. Ogden has experienced a huge increase in apartment complexes throughout the city. It is a great concern for single-family homeowners and their love for their community and investment in the city. Our north end of town currently has an inordinate amount of high-density housing. Consideration does need to be taken for the long-term homeowner-occupied residents and the flavor and personality that has made the Mount Lewis community what it is today. If the Mount Lewis Community Plan is to be changed in any way, we need to have it presented to this community from the Planning Department in the same way and process that it was previously done, so that all the residents would be aware. As we went around and knocked on doors just talking about this, people were glad that we were informing them that there was a development started.
Thank you.
Chair.
Aline.
My name is Jim Wild. I'm at 733 East, 1000 North. I also have lived at 610 East, 900 North, which is just on the corner there, northeast of the church by about a half a block. My concern at this time is what impact would such a development have on the property values in the neighborhood? Would taxes be raised to support such a thing? Since we've lived there approximately 35 years or so, we've had taxes raised quite often, and we still live in the same house. With the price of housing and everything, I can understand why people would move into townhouses or apartment complexes or duplexes, yet we need to understand what is the effect not only on the community but also the environment. What will the effect be on the care center next door? Now, my family moved into Ron Clare back in 1967, And at the time, 900 North stopped just west of the church building. There was no Viking Villa mobile home park. That was just all basically swampland and that. But over the years, it's developed. And I have nothing against with development, but I am concerned with congestion and the things that can come about because of that. You can't say that people moving into the neighborhood will diminish or increase the value of the community, not only housing, but also personality and community spirit. There are good and bad people that move into the neighborhoods and that, and I can understand that. So I have no problem with people having the advantage to find affordable housing. Although back in 1967, when my father bought his property, he paid $11,800 for a 3-bedroom house. Houses in our neighborhood within a few blocks radius are going for at least $200,000. And there are many times I get a phone call or a mailing asking if I want to sell my house. And the ones I've talked to on the phone, I said, sure, I'll take $3 million after taxes and other things. Well, they quickly say, thank you, have a good day. But that's how some of the people, particularly the residents who have been there for a long time, that's how we feel about our community. We love it, we cherish it, we're grateful for it. We have beautiful vistas and panoramas. We have the mountains on the east and the north. We have beautiful sunsets on the west and beautiful sunrises on the east. So please take into consideration the feelings and concerns and interests of the residents that are there now.
Thank you.
My name is Kristen Garrett, and I live at 512 North Jefferson. And I definitely oppose the development change. I was probably one of the last remaining undeveloped properties that I bought there on Jefferson. There were 3 lots right by our house. And from my perspective, if there are lots available to build to suit on in that area, you'll draw people in that want to build a house, because the other areas in the municipalities that surround Ogden, you can't buy a lot for less than $200,000 at this point. So really, I think if we want to get people to come into the area that have longevity, it needs to be a single family property that's available. And I understand that it's likely that we have some investors that come in, but it won't be all 8 homes that are bought by investors. And I definitely agree with the congestion that will occur because of these townhomes. So with the crime levels that I've seen just in the area that I live in, I've only lived there for 4 years, but our cars are broken into. They've been broken into 3 times, just because of the foot traffic that happens, and then people running their cars all over. But anyway, I think that we need that longevity here in Ogden for the most part, and townhomes would not do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Donna Wild, and I live at 733 East, 1000 North. When that building was built, I was only 5 years old. So it has a deep memory for me in that building. I would like to see maybe a park or something else in that property, if we could, because of all of the traffic that would be around in that area. These multi-family dwellings and stuff would make too much of a congestion through there. And also through coming up from Washington Boulevard up onto 900 North. There have been very many accidents that have happened. We've had very dear friends that have been killed walking across the street. Even on the crosswalk, we have had some people get hurt. We have lots of young kids around. Also, too, the neighborhood roads are very, they need a lot of construction and to refurbish them. And we have a lot of street lights that are out because they're shot out. We have a lot of, have some crime levels in there. Like she said, we have some people that have had their windows shot out and broken. There is some crime rate in there. In fact, I lived just across the street from my mother and father on 720 East 1000 North. I have been there, and my mom and dad moved in there when I was only 2 years old. So I do have a lot of respect for that area. My husband and I moved to Wichita, Kansas, which we lived for about 5 years. And most of my years in that area has been in that property and in that area. So it's really home to me and my children. And I'm sure that some of these people here that are behind me know of that area and how dear it is to us. So multi-family homes and duplexes and things like that will not fit right there. It's too much congestion. Our roads are very damaged. We need them upgraded. We need the lights fixed. There's a lot of things that's going on there besides just that building that we need to take advantage of and take care of. And I think that if we round it around together, then we could make our Ronclair Village what it was when I grew up, when I was little. And we moved in 1960. And so it's home. It's home. And I don't want it to be congested and, have problems around there. If we could do a park or any other suggestions, I would love to have that. Take in consideration of the things that we are asking for to make our areas greater and to make them livable for our children and grandchildren. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Donna.
Seeing no other movement in the chambers, we have 2 online. Let's go ahead and take those now. Okay, we have iPhone 11 who would like to speak on this issue also. So go ahead, just state your name and address for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Never mind.
They go away?
Maybe you guys said all their comments, so they hung up. Okay, any other comments from?
There's another one
Oh.
line there.
Oh, there's one. We'll go ahead and take comments from Sebastian Benitez. Go ahead, Sebastian, the time is yours.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Sebastian Benitez. I live in East Bench, but I know very well the area. I want to support the neighbors. I want to support the neighbors for many years living there. I want you to consider it. You represent the neighborhood. You represent the community. You don't represent developers. And originally, that project was for assisted living home. Now change. I want to know, I want to see, I like to see the contract or the agreement when that person bought the property with the church and with the agreement. And I want you please represent the community in your decision, and I will respect so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Nobody
We'll
else?
try this again. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, one keeps going on and off.
Can't get everybody.
if there's somebody from the chambers that would like to talk on this issue, feel free to come up.
We're not that scary.
Hi, I'm Connie Ray. I live at 941 East, 1100 North. And when we first bought our house, 1100 North didn't even go all the way up to Mountain Road. So we thought, this is great. There's going to be not much traffic. And then they put the road all the way up in there. And we've loved living there. But now it's getting so hard with 1100 and Larson Lane and 900 North. It's hard to get on Washington Boulevard. So you have to go clear down to 2nd Street if you can get through there, and go to the light that's down there across, right there by Lowe's. As I've been walking around lately, I've been talking to some of the neighbors, and some of them are brand new families that have just moved in, and they said, we love it here, but we hate the traffic. And if we would have known the traffic would have been like this, we never would have bought our home. And that hurt me, and I thought, how sad, because we do live in a beautiful area, and we have some awesome neighbors. But to hear that, that really broke my heart. And I understand. We have seen so many wrecks on 1100 North and Monroe that it's just sad. And if you don't believe me, call the Saunders boys that live on the corner. They've had their house hit with cars and people in their yard, cars up in their yard. And there's always fire department or someone down there because there's been a collision there at that intersection. Also, at the bottom of 1100 North and Washington, there's been a lot of wrecks there, and recently there was a fatal one. So you know, now that 1100 North goes all the way through to that little strip mall, it's hard to get across the road because you don't know if, half the people don't know how to use their blinkers, and they don't know if they're turning left or right, or if they're going straight through, and so there are a lot of wrecks that are right there too. But to get down on 900 North, people park on both sides of the road, and sometimes you can hardly get down there if there's another car coming the opposite direction as you. To have 40 units put in there, I don't think that's a good idea. There's so much down there now, and to have something like that, I don't think that's a great idea. But to have smaller homes where people can buy them that can afford them, a lot of them can't afford these $1,400 a month apartment house rentals, and so it's not going to help our community at all. But I just want you to know my main concern is for the traffic and all that's around there, because you can't hardly get on the road at all. You have to take your life in your hands to get on the road, and that's not a good thing. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Connie.
Chair, see no movement. I make a motion that we close the public hearing.
It's not a public hearing.
It's not?
It's just public input.
Public input.
Yeah.
So we don't need a motion to close that?
No.
Nope.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a comment. I'm just really, really deeply concerned about these traffic concerns. I mean, I think we need a traffic study done in that area. I'm just really worried about it. I mean, I don't go up in that neck of the woods that often, but when I do, I have noticed some traffic challenges. So regardless of what happens tonight, I think we need to definitely put that in for a traffic study, because it sounds really bad.
So are we ready to open it up for discussion for
Yes,
us?
please.
Chair?
Yep.
Okay. So I have a question for Greg about a comment that was made about which is if I just need confirmation about that being the case. I missed when this community plan was developed and if it's still up to date. But I do see here where it talks about maintaining that property to single family. So I just wanted to find out a little more about that, please.
Okay. So I think the community plan was 2014, 15, something. I'm trying to remember. I don't have it off, but it's a more recent community plan. It has been updated from the original community plan. And the item that was talked about is that the single-family homes east of Adams. One of the things the commission looked at and considered was, with new development, that being the appropriate type of thing. The question they had was, you have something that's already developed, and so this is not greenfield construction. This is redevelopment of something. And so that's why they use those other community policies to take a look at and say, with these other community policies, how do these two balance out with each other? And that was just a determination you make at that point of saying which way do you go balancing those two out. You have an existing building on the site, and so now which use do you use and which standards do you use? So that was, for right or wrong, that's the decision they went.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I don't know. I have a question that came up. One, and if I look through, I could remember. I'm believing it was Tara Rodriguez. She raised some concerns about the lighting and light shining into her with the development facing her front yard. What are the requirements and what are the things that we would do to limit that?
Yeah. So generally if you go as a group dwelling project, that's conditional use, group dwelling. We notify the surrounding neighbors again to understand any potential impacts. So lights, those type of things will be a thing they look at. The ordinances require that if there's driveways, garages, they need to do a screen fence to mitigate that. But that's only on ground level. If you're on a second story, you're still going to get some of that light impact. But you still look at screening, you look at trees, other things that can help create some type of buffer from those impacts. And that's something that takes place during the conditional use process of a group dwelling.
Okay, thank you. Do you have some?
I got a thing or two. First thing I want to say is thank those who have invested their heart and soul into making the Mountain Lewis community what it is and giving it the personality and flavor that it has. I also am a resident of that community and love living there and love all of you. And the second thing I want to say is I don't believe the petitioner is the boogeyman. I think he is, I spent about 45 minutes or so chatting with him on the phone the other day, and he has his interests, and they aren't bad. It's not a bad thing, what he wants. The things that I think are probably noteworthy and important is, and I think it was brought up before, at least it was in one of the emails that we received. The city has no long-range planning going on, as is evident by our planning staff currently. They act a little bit like a one-armed paper hanger. We give them a lot more to do than they can possibly get done. And so they're very reactive in what happens. And I think that is kind of what's going on here. It makes us all pretty reactive to these spot zoning petitions. And that's exactly what this is. I don't think we can call it anything else. It's going from R16 to R3. It's a pretty significant upgrade or up zone. When we do community plans, we notice the entire communities. Everybody in the community gets a plan or notice that we're going to do this. They come together, everybody doesn't come, but we get about, if I remember right, when we did the Mount Lewis community plan, we had about 40 or so people that participated. Is that pretty accurate, Greg? And they divided up into different committees to talk about different things like recreation and land use and traffic and parks and rec and different things of this nature. And they seriously, deeply dive into these issues for the community. Then when we get a petition like this, incidentally, I looked that community plan up, and it's pretty clear. All new residential development east of Adams Avenue should be of the single-family dwelling unit variety, and that's less than 10 years. That's 7-year-old community plan, so it's not old. But anyway, so we noticed this 300 feet from the area that is proposing to be rezoned. We don't notice the whole community. But as you can see, and as you can tell from your inbox, this community got the word, and they are fully in support that this be denied. I don't know if any of you got an email that said, yep, you need to approve that, but I didn't get one. So we essentially have the same number of people that did the community plan weighing in on this rezone. So I think we can give it some credence. I don't think they're kooks. Thank you, but you're not all kooks. All right. More than a decade ago, we did a mass downzone from R2 to the R zones because we noticed a problem in the city, and this seems very inconsistent with that thought. That, okay, we got a petition for one piece of property in the middle of a R16 neighborhood that we ought to upzone to R3. It just doesn't seem consistent to me. And it seems like it's probably not too consistent for the people that are here. The other thing that continued to come up as I talked with people is that while there hasn't been those huge apartment buildings in the Mount Lewis community, they have been close by, and most of the density is being built north of Ogden River. I did spend quite a long conversation with Jenny Nagy, and she agreed that we don't homogenize our density in Ogden very well. It seems to all want to come north, and we seem to let it for whatever reason. So the density isn't very homogenized throughout the city. I guess maybe that's really all I have to say. I just think it's a bad idea also that we do this. This is, that R16 is a designation that's been there for a long time. It's adjacent to R16. R16 development will fit that in the city. It's questionable whether anything else will. And so I propose that we deny this. That's my recommendation.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Yeah, I have some comments, so I didn't, before you make a motion.
I wasn't going to make a motion.
Please.
So I just have, I'm doing some math. I just want to, I get that we want to keep it as, well, first of all, I have a question. So is a townhome considered a single-family dwelling?
No. Or it'd be
Is it
an
defined?
R1.
Yeah.
But that is one thing I did put down in my notes to say. Part of the issue is rental versus owned. Now I know we can't legislate. We can't legislate that, but it doesn't take a very smart person to know that some housing types are a lot more likely to be owned versus some other housing types are a lot more likely to be rented. And this petitioner has already said he was going to rent it. So that's part of the issue.
So your question is a single family detached, a single family attached. the same in terms of what the zone allows? And the answer is no.
The current zone?
Under the current zone. So we look at single-family detached as being one unit on one lot. And anytime you take and say, okay, now I'm going to have 2 or 3 units on one lot, even though they're up and down the same owner or same living space, they're attached dwelling units. And so even though each unit is a single family still, they are different and need different zoning to have that take place.
Okay.
You said that better.
I don't know if I did it right.
Thank you. That was my question also, Greg.
So I just have a comment, and I've been Googling the price of the lot. You know, if we could have our wish, we would be able to put 5. And I just did a Google of the lot. Whatever, LoopNet or whatever. Based upon that, if we did 5 lots, each of the lots would cost $169,000, almost $170,000. Based on what we heard earlier, $318,000 home, that means you could build a 988 square foot house on those lots. Period, the end. Even if we did the 8, you could only build a 1,400 square foot home. So I think one of the things that we have to understand about this lot is that you know, somebody has to pay for the lot, and then and that's at $150 a square foot. I don't know what the going rate of building is now. It's probably even higher than that. So I think somebody, and I don't remember who mentioned it, but that there's no more lots and that people would build on it. They can't build on it. I mean, they can, but I think we'd be pricing ourselves out of single-family dwellings in that area if all we could get out of there was a 5 or even an 8 lot subdivision. So I just throw that out there as I'm not sure that to me, I'm not sure that we can actually go down a road of looking at a single-family dwelling or keeping it as a single-family dwelling area. That was just my comment.
And I kind of just to pile on that, you know, just kind of thinking about the neighborhood. I mean, I totally hear you about the traffic problems. I think every area in the city is having some of those challenges, and we just need a lot more traffic studies and a lot more resources to consider those issues. For my challenge, you know, kind of backing up yours, is that I certainly don't see the space, like the developer mentioned, for building a very high apartment complex. But I do see the need across our city for all different kinds of housing development. And we just have this huge tension, I think, right now between people saying, well, we don't want the city to be the developer. But when a developer comes and tells us all the facts about what they can and can't do with the property, that we're willing to just say no. You know, I think that there's a compromise, and there might be a compromise that we could do about that. Growth is coming. I mean, people need a place to live. And I think, what was the statistic I keep throwing around? 44% of Ogdenites are renters. So I really cannot tolerate the negative connotations about renters in our community when we know that there's people that own those properties and they're making profits. They would not stay in the business if it were not for making profits on being landlords. So maybe we should talk to the landlords about how they're dealing with their rental properties versus demonizing renters in our community. I just don't think it's appropriate.
Chair?
Yes.
Just to be clear, I didn't demonize any renters. I just said there is a distinction. Renters typically don't stay as long as people who own the home, which does change the stability issue. That's
Yeah.
all I was really meaning.
Yeah, and I hear that, you know, the stability in this neighborhood has been pretty good from the people that are here, but generally, statistics show that people stay in a home 7 years. So
well,
even if you own the home.
Well, anyway, I wasn't demonizing any renters. I've been a renter. I think most of us have. That was not the intention, and I don't think I said that.
I
so-
wasn't saying it explicitly to you.
Okay.
Chair?
Yes.
I have another question for Greg. I'm wondering where is the disconnect between the Planning Commission recommendation and what we're hearing from the community here today. We also heard that apparently the community wasn't that well informed. And so that's always been one of my concerns. And I don't know that I've ever really understood exactly how this works. But I'm just curious I don't know if Greg might have any insight into that or not. And that's okay either way, but I'm just curious about that.
Well, as was mentioned, because this was a rezoning consideration, the notices went out to those within 300 feet. And the people we did have come were the townhomes behind, again, concerned about their views and those type of things. So those were the people that came. Beyond that, 300 feet, I don't know if the word got out until after, once they heard what the Planning Commission had done. Frankly, sometimes people realize that the Planning Commission is a recommendation body and the City Council is where the action is. So if they can come where the action is, that's time more well spent in many people's eyes. So, I mean, that's something that's always out there.
So a rezoning is it by code that it's a rezoning, we only have to notice within 300 feet radius?
Yeah.
Versus why would we have to notice more wider?
If we were doing a community plan amendment, we'd notice a further area.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'd just like to share my thoughts on this also. First of all, I appreciate everyone coming tonight, coming a couple weeks ago, reaching out via phone or email. I truly agree with both sides of this issue. I agree that there are people coming, like Councilmember Chaburka said. We live in a great community. People want to move here. People want to live here, and they're coming from other communities they're relocating from other communities to come here, which is great. But it does bring with it its own unique set of problems, problems we didn't face for a long time, and now we're facing those, and we have to be able to deal with that. I'm thankful for the developer for taking an interest in this property, for reaching out. He reached out to me. I believe he reached out to most of the council members to share with us his idea of what he wanted to do there. I do believe, like Councilmember Heyer said, he really has that area in mind, a good product in mind, and how he can help that community. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate his honesty. Looking through the emails we received, I know that there was a big scare or a big apprehension towards a high-rise apartment complex, and I understand that. I totally understand that we are being inundated with those apartment complexes, and that is a red flag and cause for concern in many of our citizens. So I understand the apprehension towards that. I appreciate the few people that spoke tonight about, I don't know if willing is the right word, or accepting, but at least listening to the proposal of something different, a townhouse style, putting in a different product. And I appreciate the developer being honest and letting us know what he wants to put there, what they will look like, what they will be, and the number of it. I understand, like Greg had mentioned earlier, anytime we do a rezone or we change the zoning, that it casts a wide net, and we need to be able to. On this property, I would, if that's what we wanted to do, I would only be able to do that if we were very specific and did a conditional overlay on that, and we're very specific of what we want. Something that would work great for not only this community, but also the developer. So I appreciate all the comments that were made. I, like Councilmember Chaburka has said, whether we do this project or not, there are traffic issues in that area, and that needs to be addressed, whether we do this project or not. So hopefully, the administration has taken that note, and we can look into that and try and alleviate some of those concerns. I don't know where everyone else is or how everyone else feels, but
Sure.
I do appreciate Greg clarifying the Planning Commission 6-0 vote. Resonates with me. They did look at this. They understand this. They understand these types of issues very well. They take them very serious, and for them to vote 6-0, I think says a lot also. So I appreciate that. I don't know. That's where I'm. Those are the notes I've taken. That's kind of where I'm at. So.
May
Yes.
So I feel like the moment, whether it's the Planning Commission or us, are going against a plan that was built by the community so blatantly, at that point, we're already going in the wrong direction, because I personally find it very disrespectful that anybody would do anything like that. And I understand all the other concerns, and I agree. I agree with the concerns of the need for housing, affordable housing, the need for balancing the more people that need places to live. I've always argued for that. That's always been my stance, which is we need more, and we need more affordability, et cetera, but this to me just blows me away. It just blows me away that we would go against a community plan, because that means to me this was all a joke and we don't care about what you said. That's what it means. And I'm sorry, Chair, and I'm actually not directing my comments at you,
no,
okay? Sorry, I'm just speaking out to the universe here.
And
Chair.
I was just going to ask, I mean, I guess I understand that. I understand the importance of a community plan and the work that goes into a community plan. I'm just, when I mentioned that, I was just saying it's the Planning Commission that is approving that, or
Yeah.
that's what they recommended. It's
Sure.
the Planning
And
Commission that recommended to go against that community plan.
And we voted against Planning Commission recommendations in the past. And I have some concerns and questions about potentially about the Planning Commission making this recommendation that I prefer not to air them publicly right now. And so, it's just my vote, just got one vote, but I just wanted to speak my mind. I mean, after reading this, to me, everything else it's irrelevant to me.
Chair, if I might address that point. As I read the Planning Commission minutes, they were under the impression, at least it is stated in the decision, that this didn't have any guideline to the future in the community plan. Well, they obviously didn't read that statement, or they would have noticed that it does have a guideline it does have direction in the community plan. And so I just think they didn't see that. That's my belief. I don't think they're stupid either, right? And I don't think they are in the habit of going against community plans that they worked on. So.
I guess, I mean, for me, I consider a townhome a single-family dwelling, much to Vice Chair's White's consideration. I understand that they're using more than one lot, but at the same time, single families live in one upstairs, downstairs unit. It's very different than, people living in an apartment complex. So for me, I can see why maybe they read it and that's how they're seeing it too. That's just a guess.
Thank you. Ross has some things he'd like to share also, if we could
Yeah.
listen to hear from Ross. Yep.
Thanks. So just based off of information from the transmittal from administration, the recommendation from the Planning Commission is based off of two things. First, the Mount Lewis Community Plan does not state goals for this area, and this is just language from the
I'm
transmittal.
sorry, I didn't understand that. What?
Yeah, the Mount Lewis Community Plan does not state goals for this area. And their other reason for their recommendation is that the proposed rezone is consistent with the policies of the general plan.
And I would argue that that is really contrary to what I'm reading here, because to me, this is a goal. It says, all new residential development east of Adams Avenue should be of the single-family dwelling unit variety. To ensure the development pattern, certain areas should take on new zoning designations. I mean, that's a goal to me. I'm sorry, I'm not arguing with you. I know you're just reading. That sounds like a pretty clear goal to me.
Not that I want to argue, but I'm not sure what you can build there. I'm just giving you the-
look,
I'm just doing the numbers.
we're not arguing. We're having a debate, which is healthy and is what we always do.
The developer did the numbers too, and he discovered he could make that work.
40 units, but not 5. That's what I'm saying.
Well, no, he said he could make the single family work. He didn't think it was a great idea, but he says he could.
That
make
is
it work.
correct.
Yeah.
At 900 square feet.
Well, he didn't give a square footage. He just said a small home.
She's telling you she did.
I'm just telling you that I'm.
Sure, and that's a good point. And like I said, Councilwoman White, we're not arguing. We're having a debate, and I just my point is just that it's clear to me that. I mean, I was, as I've been thinking about these, I've been trying to, as all of us, trying to rationalize these and try to make the best case for myself on how I'm going to vote, which is what we all do all the time. But when I heard these today, it just blows my mind. And so that's why these other arguments about what would we build there, what would we not build there, to me, it's just wrong, because we're I don't mean to sound poetic here or anything like that, but we're here to represent the community, and we're going against what's in the community plan, working against what the community is asking and wanting for their neighborhood. And I'm not anti-development, like I said. Yes. I had a bit of an exchange with Councilmember Heyer one time, that he felt that I think he felt it was okay when I made a comment about people wanting to live in Ogden and stay in Ogden and not being able to because we don't have enough affordable housing. He's like, oh, there's nothing wrong with people going to other places. And I was just very passionate about making the case, no, it is wrong. People want to live in Ogden, and we, so I'm not anti these. It's just about these. I just don't understand. I really don't understand it. But anyway.
I think those are very fair comments, and I totally understand what you're saying. And again, I'm not one side or the other, but I do believe...
You'll have to be in a minute.
In a minute. I believe in 2011, the housing market and the housing stock was very different than it is now, or 2014, whenever it was. So, I mean, that... I'm not trying to make arguments or statements or claims for one side or the other. These are all points that
sure, and that's very valuable.
That go into it.
That's very valuable. And another point I would like to make could potentially be, why instead of thinking about building lower point homes, could we build higher price point homes? I mean, that's what's happened here in some of the developments that we've been doing. And the argument from our administration has always been that we need that balance of too much affordable housing, and that's why we're bringing that in, You know, the Stone Hill, I think, and those homes that are costing more than $400,000 and whatnot. So instead of going really low point, very small square footage, why don't we do the opposite? You know, what's the difference between doing it over there than what we've done over here, right? So I'm just, you know, again, rhetorical questions, right? Just throwing it out there. And I don't know why I'm so passionate about this issue today.
That's okay.
But
You can be.
yeah,
You gotta fight.
I hope I haven't offended anyone yet.
No. I honestly, I never feel completely offended by you. Don't worry.
Well, thank you.
No, that's one good thing about this council. We can disagree and we can still not be disagreeable. We're going to walk out of here friends tonight, no matter what. Even though you can tell there's two different points of view, but I don't think we're changing anybody's mind. We might as well get to the business of deciding this thing.
Well, and can I just mention quickly, I mean, I'm all in favor of the conditional overlay of some sort and setting some very specific parameters. The problem is if we vote on this, yes or no, the proposal, it will either be R3 or R1. So that's the only thing.
Unless you rephrase your motion, which you could.
No, I'm just saying we could do a conditional overlay, but if someone now does this particular motion, it will either be R1.
Correct.
Or it will be R3.
But what I'm saying is if you do a motion before this one and that motion is considered first, then that could potentially.
That's what I'm trying to warn everybody.
Correct?
But
I'm
I
trying
don't,
to say,
and
Rich
maybe
was
I
getting
need
ready to make a motion. So
yeah,
I
I
just wanted to
understand.
mention that.
Thank you for bringing that up. But I do believe in order to do that, we would have, I believe we'd have to table that in order to work through those parameters so that could come back. Is that correct? Yeah.
So if this gets voted either way, then there's a final decision made, or we could table it to discuss the conditional overlay.
Well,
So I
a
just wanted to
table,
mention
a table has to have 4 votes too.
Mm-hmm.
4 votes?
Yeah, we'd still have to have.
But it's an option. It's an option that motion goes and you have enough votes
So
to
if we
table
don't,
it.
if we don't get the 4 votes to table it, then we will make this decision tonight. Sorry, just clarifying, because we've had this little problem before.
And I would actually entertain that, Councilwoman.
Tabling it.
Tabling it, not. I think my mind is very made up that I probably wouldn't entertain anything other than single family homes. But tabling it, I think, will give us the opportunity to probably discuss that even a little bit more.
And we could get
It would
the
also
other
give you 2 other council
members.
members.
Yeah.
Correct.
That's what I.
But.
And maybe just to clarify, it would be a motion to extend because staff would
That's
need
correct.
some additional
I'm
time
looking at it.
to come up with, a proposal.
So Chair, I'd like to make a motion to extend the rezone petition with the direction that a conditional overlay be placed on 550 East 900 North. Do I want to do that whole one? Or just extend it to discuss it further?
Sorry, everyone's looking at me and I'm actually looking at you all.
I didn't hear the whole.
Well, I started to read the suggested language, but I realized that isn't what we
Correct.
were just talking about.
Right. So if you
because-
just want to leave a little more open-ended, is that what
Okay,
you're
so
saying?
I'll move,
Yes.
okay, let me rephrase, I apologize. I move to extend the rezone petition, so we can have further discussion. That's
I second.
right?
Okay, thank you. We have a motion to extend proposed ordinance 2021-45 by Councilmember Chaburka and a second by Councilmember Lopez. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Heyer,
No.
Councilmember Lopez,
Aye.
Councilmember Chaburka,
Aye.
Vice Chair White,
Aye.
Chair Blair.
Aye, that passes. So we'll go ahead and extend that.
Thank
and
you.
work
I
with
think
staff.
that'll
Yep,
help with the other council members present as well.
I do too.
Now, for
Good
these
deal.
people that are here, we need to make sure that they get noticed of the new date with adequate time to prepare with what's being proposed. Hopefully, all of you left your address on the sign-in sheet.
They probably
And
didn't.
if not, I'm
one there.
sure they could do it on the way out, right, Chair?
Is that
I'm
how
not
we
sure,
do that?
is there one, there's not a sign-in sheet, but, so what will happen is next week, at next week's meeting, Ross will present a timetable and a plan, a communications plan. So if everybody wants to listen in, we have a Zoom option on all of our meetings, so you don't have to come down here again. They can listen in and they can hear that. So we can make sure that you get the notice. We have a few of your emails because you have commented, so we can even maybe provide that information through those emails that we received.
That'd be great.
Is there a table out there we put some sign-in sheets on? Is that something that could happen before they all leave? Okay.
Thank you. And thanks
So-
for the discussion on that.
I had a very quick sidebar over here that I missed. So are we going to collect contact information?
They're gonna put a sign up sheet out there for emails and phone numbers. So.
Okay.
Yep, it'll be
Keep
done
them
before
informed
tonight.
as to what's happening. Okay.
Yep. Okay.
Thanks for all your passion, ladies
Yes.
and gentlemen.
I know.
This is impressive that this many of you have come together to talk about your community and to protect it. Thank you for your efforts that way. This is the public process. It's kind of icky sometimes, but we appreciate you being part of it. No.
Not until.
Public comments.
Until
We'll have
end.
public
Chair,
comments.
Could we take 10 and maybe they could ask us outside? They could take a 10-minute break.
Yeah.
We've been here for almost 2.5 hours.
I would not argue with that.
Okay, we'll take a 10-minute recess. You're telling me that this place is garbage, but you don't want anyone else to live here. All for letting us take that break. We left off on, are we ready? Yeah, that's right. Okay, here we go. We are on item number 7B, the Business Exchange Industrial Zone Text Amendments. And we have Greg Montgomery here again.
Wait till this to get up so I can operate it. So what we have is another petition that had been filed with the city to consider amending the text of the zoning ordinance regarding the business exchange industrial area. This is the old stockyard area. And the petition asked that amendment be made to the text of the ordinance regarding that area so that larger than 50,000 square foot warehousing could be developed in the business exchange area. That is that area, as you see on the air photo on the right, the vacant ground. You see inside Stockman Way, buildings have been constructed, but there are 3 vacant lots that still exist in the business exchange industrial area. And so the request to have a larger warehouse is so that they can develop on the lots 8 and 11. Now, as I mentioned, there's 3 vacant lots. They vary in size from 3 acres to 5 acres. Lot 8 is the largest of the lots, and it abuts the bike park, which is to the north. And then there's a public open access area that gets to the river that is between Lot 8 and 11, and then runs around the north side of Lot 11. These are the old loading ramps that are now a kind of a feature for that open space that separates the business area from the bike park. When the zone is created, it was looking to create light industrial research, manufacturing, development areas. And the regulations were put in place to limit the size of warehousing and distribution in order that that not become the main use, so that job creation through manufacturing would be the main function of that zone. And there's been developments that have taken place over time, but again, we have these 3 vacant pieces. So the consideration is what has changed, or are there things changing that we would consider changing the ordinance itself? Is the overall goal changed? Is there a desire for more distribution, even though there's limited truck access in this area? One of the questions we raised with this request was the neighbor to the west, which is Bloom's Recycling. And with the open spaces that have been developed, the question we raise is, with market changes and some of the things that are out there for use of industrial space, would distribution be a use that could take place and be a transition between Bloom's Recycling and the other more manufacturing type uses that could take place to the east? And that was part of the discussion that took place. Planning staff had recommended that that probably is the best approach because Lot 8 is bordered by open space on 2 sides and Bloom's on the west side, and to allow a larger distribution space to take place there, but not on the other lots in the zone. The Planning Commission, however, felt it would be appropriate to make a change, and so they recommended that you consider revising the ordinance to have warehousing up to 70,000 square feet in the rest of the lots in the business exchange zone. Now, we did have a field trip afterwards. The council asked that there be a field trip to the site so you can visually look at these properties. And at that site, we talked about the Lot 8 and its size, what it's next to, and the idea that it may be appropriate to consider a Lot 8, allowing a larger building up to 80,000 square feet. There had been a plan approved for a manufacturing business in February of this year that was 76,000 square feet, which is what this drawing is illustrating, that approved plan in February, which is Again, that's by another developer. And so no longer are they interested in this specific project. But that if certain criteria were established, it may be appropriate, such as loading docks facing only west, meaning facing the Blooms property, creating a 50-foot buffer from the bike park to the building, and then looking at that 80,000 square foot as a possibility. So with that discussion, one of the things we pointed out in the work session today is if you choose to go that way rather than the Planning Commission's recommendation to you, or even what staff had recommended earlier, and want to look at these things, you would need to continue this meeting because it had not been noticed to increase. You can always decrease what an ordinance is talking about, but you can't increase without renoticing it. So that's kind of your options you have tonight, either to take the Planning Commission recommendation and consider that, or staff's recommendation earlier, or as this compromise has been looked at, to table it to allow the ordinances to be amended to include these type of standards into it. Any questions?
Any questions for Greg?
I think you did a great
What?
job.
Yep.
Yeah, and I don't have any questions. I just want to say how much I appreciate you going on a field trip with us last week, because that was really nice to go out to the space and talk about it.
Yeah, it was really nice. Thanks a lot.
Good.
Appreciate that.
It helped a lot.
You and Brandon and all the wherewithal you pulled together to get this done. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We are scheduled to receive public input on this item, so we can now go ahead and open this up for public input. Like Councilmember Heyer said, come on up. We're not that scary.
Yeah, we're not that scary.
If there's someone online.
There, yeah, we can't see any.
Okay. Any comments from council members?
Yeah, Chair, I think, we talked a little bit about this in the work session, as well as, although we didn't make any decisions on the field trip, we did kind of feel like maybe there was a workable solution if we allowed the petitioner to have the 80,000 square foot on Lot 8 only, keeping all the trucking on the west, as was explained, and a green buffer on the north of 50 feet, parking on the east. The thing that was, the city has put a lot of money to developing the business exchange area, including an expensive water line out there, and it was just not cheap. And the idea is that we would get jobs out of that. Distribution doesn't provide very many jobs, and I think if we were at this point to turn around and say, well, we're going to let it happen whatever's left, we would essentially be shooting our taxpayers in the foot. And it would be ill-advised to do that, I think, and I'm ready to make a motion, but I don't want to cut anybody else off.
I think, going out there and actually seeing the space and everything and understanding that we could help to create some kind of buffer between the track line and the beautiful new River Parkway walk and all of that, and where all the truck traffic will be. And so I think that would be appropriate to do as well.
I agree. I thought it was great to go out there and really examine Lot 8. Lot 11, I'm not quite sure about the changes applying to that also, but yeah, I thought taking the field trip, looking at the site, seeing what we could do out there to mitigate some of the bufferings and the traffic flows, it was beneficial for me. So,
you ready for a motion?
Just real quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do we have to define that we only want truck traffic on the west side, or is that something
that would be our direction as on the table?
Okay.
Yeah.
On the table,
just
correct?
for the table, so that staff knows what to do with the time. Is that okay? You all good? Okay. You good with taking a
I'm good.
motion?
I'm good.
And Chair, concerning proposed ordinance 2021-46, I would move that we table this item to October 19th. Is that where we want to go to? With direction to staff to write an ordinance that allows 80,000 square feet on Lot 8 only, with all trucking on the west side of the lot, with a green buffer on the north side of the building of 50 feet, with the parking on the east.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion to table this item with the conditions listed by Councilmember Heyer and a second by Councilmember Chaburka. Just before we get, this is a roll call vote. Before we get to that vote, I just wanted to make sure. Now, the Planning Commission did approve that it goes up to 70,000, correct, on all those. So would that leave lot 11 at the 70,000 then?
That's a good question. Maybe we ought to have staff give us some info as to why we would want to do anything different. Maybe Brandon or Greg, you want to give us a little guidance on what we ought to leave in place for lot 11?
They're both pointing at each other.
Well, I think with lot 11, I think the recommendation to go to the 80,000 would say, and lot 8 would be saying, okay, that is all we're doing for distribution. We leave lot 11 under the present ordinance at 50,000 square feet.
Yep, make that part of my motion.
Okay.
And part of my second.
Okay. Are we okay with that to move forward? Thank you. So this is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Lopez,
Aye.
Councilmember Chaburka,
Aye.
Councilmember Heyer,
Aye.
Vice Chair White,
Aye.
Chair Blair.
Aye. That passes, or that has been tabled till October 19th. Thank you. And next is the conditional use permit amendment, and we have Barton Brierly here.
Good evening, Chair Blair and City Councilors. So this is a hearing to consider an amendment to the zoning ordinance regarding how we process conditional use permits. So the overall goal, if we look in our strategic goals, one of the goal strategies is to create the most inviting, responsive local government in the state by continuing to promote a business-friendly environment and by reducing bureaucracy and revising unnecessary regulations for development. And so to achieve that goal, we've found a way that we think is potentially a unnecessary regulation and try to streamline the process to allow businesses to grow and small development to occur without unnecessary regulations. So in the current code, once you have a conditional use, and if you want to amend that conditional use, all those any extension, any increase in intensity has to go back to the Planning Commission. So if the Planning Commission has already approved it and they want to change the siding, it's got to go back to the Planning Commission for review again. And you can see how those sorts of things can cause a lot of delay and additional bureaucracy. So the proposal would be to allow minor amendments of approved conditional use permit to be reviewed at staff level. And of course, what is a minor amendment? And the place we see this most often is with cell towers. Cell technology changes rapidly, carriers change. We have seen just dozens and dozens of applications for the carriers to change the antennas or add a backup generator or add some different equipment to an existing tower. And so these all go back to the Planning Commission, and we just write dozens and dozens of these staff reports that just get approved by the Planning Commission. So what we propose is that we define a minor amendment as any change to one of these facilities that does not change the outside dimensions of the tower or increase the footprint of the facility on the ground. Those could be approved at staff level. Anything that expanded that would go back to the Planning Commission. I mentioned siding. This is an application that the Planning Commission reviewed a couple months ago where they had an existing group dwelling. And since group dwelling's conditional use permit, they wanted to change the siding on it, and that was changing the conditional use permit and had to go back to the Planning Commission. We'd recommend that a minor exterior change like this could be done and reviewed at staff level. A change to a different conditional use within the same category that doesn't result in any new or increased detrimental effects. So I use the example here of changing from a go-kart track to a miniature golf facility would actually probably be reducing the impacts, and so that could be done without going back to the Planning Commission. That could be done at staff level. Small additions where you're expanding by not more than 2,000 square feet or 10% of the originally approved floor area, that could be reviewed at staff level. And modifications to parking lots that don't add more than 2,000 square feet of impervious surface. So looking at this, the Planning Commission recommended approval and staff recommends adoption of the amendment. And that concludes our staff report.
Sure, I have one question about this. I'm totally supportive, and I also am wondering, so then would I not be getting all those notifications about the cell tower changes in my mail?
That's correct, yes.
Nice, yeah, because that is a lot of paper.
It
I
is.
understand there's a lot of them that happen all the time.
Yes, it is a lot of
Yeah, it is. It's
a lot of staff process.
Yeah, it's huge.
Okay.
Just a real quick question. When they do a permit like that, do they have to pay a fee?
Yes, they do.
And they would still have to pay the fee?
Yes.
Regardless, okay.
Thanks, Barton. Thank you. Okay, we will now receive public input on this item. Anyone who wishes to speak on this item, please come forward. Or any online. Okay. Thank you, Angel. Go ahead and speak. The time is now yours.
Good evening. Way to go, everybody, for hanging in here. It's a really, really long meeting, so thanks. Angel Castillo, Ogden resident and former planning commissioner. I fully applaud a good chunk of this particular downsizing and streamlining the process for the planning department. 100% cell phone towers, provided the technology doesn't change radically and the size doesn't change radically or the look doesn't change radically. Yeah, absolutely. But as a former planning commissioner, I have seen and not approved with other fellow commissioners some terrible, terrible things. And they were only caught as far as their aesthetic look because they had to come before the Planning Commission because we do not have lock solid all across the city. These are the materials that you can use only within these materials. And then if you want to change it, you have to come and ask for additional things. Residential siding and minor changes aesthetically can be absolutely horrible. And we are guardians of the look of our community, of what we want it to be. And I am, for that particular section, really opposed to not letting that go through until we have lock solid code that says you may only choose from these 15 materials, these colors, and you must apply for something if you want to go outside of that. Once we have that, then we're safe because we've decided on a look that's going to be contiguous for a particular community. But until we have that, we really risk some interesting things getting by that our dedicated planning staff catches and protects us from. And then we have the extra buffer layer of what the Planning Commission protects us from. In general, speeding up things, really good idea. Also very on board for uses of a business within a particular zone, like the bumper car or go-kart example. I'm a little leery about the small additions. While I applaud not having to get permits for that, it makes me a little uneasy as well, because you want to make sure that setbacks are being taken care of. You want to make sure that safety is part of it. If you're going to anchor that foundation, then I really believe that our planning staff should be involved to make sure that we are building quality and safe things, no matter how big they are. We want to make sure we have nice neighborhoods and nice structures. So that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Seeing none, I would go ahead. Are any comments from council members?
Just to clarify, I mean, it's my understanding that the planning staff would be the ones reviewing these, right? When you say staff review? Sorry.
That's correct. They would still need permits. They would still go through review, and they would still have to meet city ordinances. It's just the process would change.
I got to admit, I agree with Angel on the, as a planning commissioner for a long time, they often asked me to make design decisions, and I'm not. There was a couple of commissioners that were, but certainly wasn't the majority. But staff does get the context of this stuff. I'm a lot happier with staff doing it than requiring some unelected volunteer officials, even though they are very skilled in what they do. That's just a hard thing, and I think that this is appropriate.
Okay. If there's no further comments, I would go ahead and entertain a motion.
Chair, I'll make a motion then that we adopt ordinance 2021-47.
I second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Councilmember Heyer to adopt proposed ordinance 2021-47 with a second by Councilmember Lopez. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Chaburka.
Aye.
Councilmember Heyer.
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez.
Aye.
Vice Chair White.
Aye.
Chair Blair.
Aye, that passes. Thank you. Next up is public comments. This is an opportunity to address the council regarding any concerns or ideas. Please state your name and address for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Thank you.
Hello, Kerry Wayne. My address is 309 South, 1200 West. I believe you might remember me from 4 years ago when I came here while you were trying to stomp the life out of the nature center to put in a commercial development. We now have along 1200 West warehouses that we were not told about. We have deep concern. If you go up on the next floor, look out, you'll see how tall those warehouses are. And they're less than 4 car lengths from the homes along 1200 West. I'm really excited to be here because of the fact you're talking about community planning, and you're also I'm showing a great deal of compassion for Ogden City homeowners. We have gotten nothing out of Ogden City on this. Mayor Van Leeuwen wrote a letter to Ogden City asking for certain things to be addressed. That has yet to be answered in 7 months. We were told, Ms. Montgomery invited us to a public hearing after construction had started, and we were told that there would be no overnight construction. It took 4 weeks for the mayor to give a noise waiver. 2 o'clock in the morning, right across from our homes, we have to put up with this. What we're asking here is that Ogden City engage with the homeowners along 1200 West, that you show some compassion of some sort, that you work on giving us answers concerning noise, concerning lighting, concerning litter, concerning the pollution that's on the site still. This needs to be taken care of. Like I said, when I was here before, I gave you a DVD of Fern Gully, basically talking about a bunch of evil individuals trying to destroy a woodland paradise. Evidently, you didn't watch it. So I'm asking you, maybe A Wonderful Life might be a next choice in a movie. It's about a gentleman named George Bailey who goes up against an evil banker who wants to destroy the town that he's in and suppress the people who live in it. What we're asking for is that you treat us like good neighbors and do something about what's going on over there. We just got notification that you're tearing down the fence. We've got people coming off of the site onto 1200 West. They finally put up a barrier so they won't. But again, you have not done anything to talk with us or to treat us like human beings. And it's about time you do so. You might want to put a, like say, a historical marker like we have on our side, on all four sides of the BDO, so that they can understand what you're doing over there. Again, you need to treat us like human beings, and you need to act like good neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Mark, at 499 South, 1200 West. First of all, my grandpa's house is on the Nature Center. That's my grandpa's house. He built it. Ogden City came out and took that away from him many years ago. I'm just glad that Marriott Slaterville City became a city so you guys couldn't come out no farther, because you don't give a tinker's damn about us out there. You give about these people in here, but not out there. How many field trips have you taken out there to see what's going on? People are working out there 24/7 at night. My grandkids, I can't sleep. It's a joke what's going on out there. The buildings, you won't even be able to see the sun until 11 o'clock during the day. I don't think you guys really care because you don't know what's going on. The mayor, you guys don't, none of you. All you guys see that big dollar signs up, BDO. That's all you see. And like I say, I'm just glad that we incorporated when we did, so you guys couldn't come out no farther. Because you guys, like I say, I grew up on that area, and don't think of the traffic when they were talking about the traffic out here, okay? Because now we're gonna have semis 24/7 with their Jake brakes on and everything else going in and out of there. And we got some other big construction going on out there. So you guys don't care about the traffic. When I was growing up, I've grown up here my whole life. I lived out in the country. I used to ride horses on Washington Boulevard. I used to ride bicycles everywhere in Ogden City. You can't do none of that no more. That's the traffic. You're not going to stop the traffic, so you might as well deal with that when people bring up the traffic situation. Live with it, because you guys want all these people to come into Ogden City. The more the better. That's what Ogden City wants. So, but I wish the hell you guys would go out and see what's going on out there, because you don't have a clue. How many, by raise of hands, how many's been out there and seen that?
My name is Lori Slater Jones, and I'm 3 South, 1200 West. I saw a few hands go up as you said that you'd had a field trip out there. I wonder how many of you came and stood in our homes, looked out the window, and imagined a 45-foot wall. That's what you get to look at every morning. Not the sun, just a shadowed 45-foot concrete wall. I've heard a lot today about planning, about inclusion, about recognition. There was excellent planning. October is Community Planning Month. What did you do in planning to make sure that we would maintain the services and the simple luxuries that we have? We have lost our internet service, the entire street. Every satellite tower is blocked by a 45-foot concrete wall. I'm a full-time teleworker. I am the primary income for my family. That I can't do my job. What planning did you do to make sure that we would have sunshine and not a concrete wall to look at. How many of you, raise your hands, went out there and stood on the other side of the street and imagined a 45-foot wall, a continuous wall that will be joined by partitions between each of those buildings, a continuous wall from 400 North to the Nature Center? How many of you would like to buy my property? I laid every brick in that home. I built that home with my own 2 hands and my husband, and we have lost our property values. Do you want to buy my home? Nobody else wants to buy my home. Nobody wants to look at a 45-foot concrete wall. And there isn't any amount of jungle landscaping that you can put in front of that 45-foot concrete wall and make it not look like a prison. So I invite you to make another field trip and stand in our front rooms and look out the window and imagine how you'd like to look at that 45-foot concrete wall every single morning for the rest of your lives. We are legacy families. I am one of the latest property owners there. Although I have lived almost my entire life in Marriott-Slaterville, I have been there 21 years. We have paid our mortgages. We have paid our dues. We are ready to retire. We want to enjoy our homes. I have elderly parents here. My father is 85 years old. His property, his grandparents' property, was taken from him in 1940 for the government, for the depot. And now, what did we get? A 45-foot concrete wall in our front yard. Thank you, Ogden City. Thank you, Boyer. And I'll let you know when I need my mortgage paid because I can't do my job.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, that's kind of my hat's off to this lady. But I have to say, my name is Yvonne Long. And you know, my husband and I just recently moved here. We sold our beautiful home. And what took us several months to find us a home that we could call our own. It was a little piece of heaven to us, till we realized that what was happening across the street. And these walls that they're building, these huge cement walls, and we look out the window and wonder what in the world happened here. Where did we get this from? Who done what? How many of you really realized how big these cement walls are and what they have done to a wonderful little community? A piece of heaven that we loved when we first moved in there. We've seen the beautiful mountains from North Ogden Divide, clear to Ben Lomond Peak, up to Ogden City, up to Weber Canyon. But that's all going to be gone, all of it, because of a cement wall that you guys chose to have built. I hope you feel real guilty, but I don't think you do, because from what I've seen, there wasn't too many hands that went up to have gone down there and seen what has gone on here. And what are we going to do about it? I say they need to come down, lower those walls, quit building, see how far you can go up with them. How many of you would like that cement wall across the street from your homes now where you live? Show me a hand. I didn't think so. And like she said, we don't have internet. I do. I do have a lung problem, and I do call using my internet to speak to my lung doctor that is clear out on the other side of Salt Lake, because I can't drive that far. What am I going to do when I don't have internet and it's already been interrupted by that wall being built? And when that last building goes up, guess what? I won't have internet either. And what am I going to do? What would you do if you didn't have computers here tonight? I hope you all take a trip down there and see what we're looking at every day. And the traffic, the semi 4/7 coming in there, and they're going to say, beep, 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 loading and unloading. Is that what you want in your neighborhood? We don't. And I suggest you do something about it.
Thank you.
My name's Janet Meyerhofer, and I live at 357 South, 1200 West. And I have watched the sunrise and the moonrise over those beautiful Wasatch Mountains for over 33 and a half years. And to realize it's going away is devastating to me. I'm constantly looking at the mountains now and soaking in their beauty before I will be staring at those big concrete buildings, because the last one's going up in front of my house. A few years ago, I visited China, and I noticed their dreary, cold, and depressing concrete buildings, and I thought how awful it would be to have to live there and look at that. And now that's my reality. I love to see the stars and the heavenly events because I love all that stuff, but the light pollution from BDO, it just kills those views. And I'll miss seeing the little family of herd of deers across the street in the field that I always enjoyed. And the constant beeping of the trucks and loading and unloading of those docks is going to be a nuisance and a noise pollution. And the construction all summer long has been horrible. You can't even sleep at night. The value of our home is lost. Even if we wanted to move, we couldn't afford to buy any other place because the market's so high. And who wants our home anyway? Nobody wants to look at that. Our lives and quality of our lives will never be the same. It's depressing, it's heartbreaking, and it's anxiety-ridden. We're mourning the loss of our quality of life in our little community, which was named and settled by my husband's great-great-grandpa. Put yourself in our shoes. What if this was your house? What if this was what you had to look at every day? All we're doing is asking to respect our peace and rights as homeowners. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, Hudson, and my address is 1212 200 South. And just the same as my neighbors here tonight, it's been heartbreaking for me because I love that view. We eat all our meals outside on our deck, and it's gone. I have the big one right across the street from me, and I mean, I want to move, and I'll probably have to give my house away, you know, and have a mortgage again, and worked hard to keep my home nice, and it's destroyed. But I invite you all over for coffee tomorrow at 5:45, and you can get up and look out my window and go, where the hell am I? It's devastating. But I would like to know where the planning was last October, you know, and when these buildings were going to go up, we were never contacted. Construction was already underway when there was the Zoom meeting, you know, and I would like to know where the planning was for our community. We're not Ogden City, but we shop in Ogden City. We live in Ogden City. You know, you benefit from us, Ogden City does, and there was no planning or no consideration for any of us and our rights as homeowners. And I think the Boyer Company in Ogden City owes us compensation for this. You should not just be able to put this up across the street from our homes without compensating us in some way. If someone was taking your property and putting a road in, you would be compensated for that. You have ruined our homes. You know, it's dark until 11 o'clock, shaded completely. In the wintertime, when the storms come and stuff, that road is gonna be nothing but a sheet of ice. I live on a corner. Somebody's gonna turn and slide right into my house. And none of this was taken into consideration. We weren't involved in any of this planning. This property should have been given back to Marriott Slaterville. It was borrowed property by DDO, and it should have been given back to us. And it should have been used as a buffer. You guys have other room for warehouses in BDO. You shouldn't have put them right along 1200 West.
Thank you.
My name's Shelley Kautzman. I live at 335 South, 1200 West. Marriott, Slaterville, Utah. Greatest city ever. Used to think it was Ogden. Told everybody I lived in Ogden. So proud of Ogden. Supported Ogden my whole life. Lived here my whole life in Ogden. Moved to Marriott, Slaterville 40 years ago with my husband and 2 little girls. You know what now we get to look at? I'm not as lucky. I don't get a 45-foot wall. I get a 55-foot wall. That's what's going up in front of my house. Congratulations, guys. We're really proud of you. We're really thankful for your planning commission. They've done a great job. I don't know who they talked to, who they planned for, or what they planned for, but they certainly didn't plan for a bright future. In fact, it's pretty sad, and I'm pretty ashamed to tell anybody anymore I'm from Ogden. I'm really ashamed. I'm ashamed of every one of you. I'm ashamed of you, Mr. Caldwell, Mayor. I'm ashamed of every single one of you guys that you would do this or you would treat people this way. Treat anybody, because I wouldn't treat a dog like that. I wouldn't kick them while they were down, and I wouldn't certainly put them in a metal cage or a cement cage in our case. I'm not asking you for compensation. You can't compensate me for the mountains. You can't compensate me for the beautiful sunshine. You can't even compensate me for the internet, because it wouldn't make any difference. What you guys have done have broken the spirits of my neighbors, my family, my friends. And I am ashamed of every single one of you, and I'm very proud to say that. And I think that you guys all owe us that trip. I'd welcome you at my house for coffee in the morning, tea, a soda, whatever you want. Come and take a view, see what we put up with. The garbage that blows across that, I pick up every single morning, 4:30 in the morning, I'm out there walking. I should have brought you a couple bags. Maybe you could have given it back. I call Aaron all the time, tell him what I think, how much you guys have done such a wonderful job. Come out and visit, come out and take a look, and see what your wonderful planning commission has done to human life. Humans, every one of us are. Are you guys? Question.
Thank you.
I am Jake Moss. I'm at 1271 West, 200 South. There's some great frustration, as you guys have, heard from my neighbors tonight. Matter of fact, the buildings are there. What's the plan now? How can these issues be addressed? Several people have mentioned noise, lighting. Down towards 400, they've started painting the buildings white. Okay, well, Marriott Slaterville has a dark sky ordinance. Ogden City does not. So we've got this white building now, and if they put security lighting or whatnot on that building, that's going to reflect that white and make that light cast into our homes even more. So now, from dealing with truck noise, construction noise, and now we're going to have daylight all night long. So, you know, that's a consideration. You know, what about the internet for neighbors, you know, that don't have it? I'm lucky enough that on my street we have Comcast. I have Comcast. That's not available to these people on 1200 West. It's just not. So, you know, and then what about the security? You know, we're bringing truck traffic in. You know, we've had a fence for a while that could kind of mitigate who's coming into our neighborhoods, but that fence is going to be gone now. You know, how can we make sure that our property is protected, that our families are protected with that? You know, we'd like to work together. We'd like to, you know, we feel like Ogden City's a big brother, but it feels like Ogden City's giving us a black eye and says, well, deal with it. So, thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Tina Evenhouse, and I live on 1229 West, 200 South. My property it faces north, but it goes all the way out to 1200. The building on the side of my house is as long as my property. So if I walk out there, all I see is a cement building. I just put a deck on my house, and all I can see is a cement building. I've lived out there for 21 years. I retired, I paid for my house. I wanted to spend time on my yard. I go out there and all I can see is this big, huge building. I'm looking up at it. That's it. No sun, no nothing. And you know, that whole road is going to be nothing but ice this year because there is no sun on it. I wish you guys, you know, we didn't find out that they were, you know, I seen them bring in the dirt. And I told my husband, they're going to build. He says, no, they're just going to widen the road. And we got the notice on a Saturday, and you guys' Zoom meeting was on Monday. That was how much notice we got that there was going to be huge, big buildings out there. And I'd move. I would move because it's so depressing and so sad to look out my window. But nobody's going to give me anything for my house, and I'm too old to move. I love Marriott. I love the ward. I love my neighbors. It's the best place to live if you could see out your windows. I just wish you guys would take go out there and look and see if you could live like that for the next, hopefully not too many years. I'll be gone, but my son will have my house. I love Ogden City. My daughter was buried at Ogden Cemetery, and I plan to be up there with her someday. Because I love Ogden. I've been here for a lot. I've come from Brigham, and I lived in Brigham for 20 years, but I've been here for 45 years. Ogden is my home. This is my place. And I just wish that I would have got more consideration. Thanks.
Thank you. We do have two hands on Zoom. Do you want to go ahead and speak? Looks like Heath Sato has his hand raised, so we'll go ahead and let him speak now. Go ahead, Heath. The time is yours.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Heath Sato, Ogden resident. That's really hard to follow, and I almost don't want to comment after those people and what they're going through, because my comment's minor in comparison, but here it goes. I have a concern regarding comments made about the Diversity Commission that I would like to talk about. I almost didn't want to say this because it might sound a bit harsh, but I honestly think it's mostly a matter of just thinking a little bit more about how things are sometimes discussed, and someone's got to say it. During the work session today, I heard for the second or third time a council member state that the Diversity Commission has a bias. I just want to say that literally every committee has some sort of bias if one chooses to perceive viewpoints as bias. It's why these committees exist, to share their views, utilizing the knowledge base of the people appointed by the mayor for their expertise on these issues, expertise the council itself likely doesn't have as a whole. The viewpoint of the Arts Committee is about selecting good art for the city. The viewpoint of the Christmas Village Committee is towards presenting quality secular Christmas themes during that season. The viewpoint of the Diversity Commission is towards meeting the needs of our diverse communities. Nobody complains about the bias of any other commissions, and I would request that the council member concerned about bias by the Diversity Commission to reconsider their own viewpoint. If someone has a specific complaint about something a commission has shared with the council, say it directly. But just saying they have a bias about the Diversity Commission just comes across as, frankly, well, I'm going to say it, it comes across as racist. I know that isn't the intent, but it's just not cool. Complaining about a viewpoint as bias is not helpful or respectful to that commission. We need to let commissions do the jobs that we have tasked them with doing, respect their conclusions, and discuss those conclusions. If someone feels the commission is not doing their job properly, they need to address that issue directly and not just complain about some perceived bias every time the commission is mentioned as a way to dismiss the views they share with the council. Thank you.
Thank you. There's one other hand raised. Oh, two other. So we'll go ahead and allow Angel Castilla the time. Go ahead, Angel. The time is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Angel Castillo, Ogden resident. I need to be 100% clear that views I'm going to express right now are mine as a citizen alone and not reflective of any board or state committee that I sit on, and just as a resident. I really want to emphasize that what the task the council has before them with redistricting is very, very serious. And some things that I heard bounce around in the work session are a little challenging, and I don't believe that they're going to adequately represent the citizens of Ogden. I'm specifically talking about the consideration of rezoning east to west and incorporating East Bench into East Central. I had a really good conversation today for about 20 minutes with Brian Cowley from the Weber County voting board. And the long and the short of it is that they're not pleased that they are under the gun to do this. They would have normally liked to have 3 months to take in public comment and make sure that everybody has been heard. But it's a really tight thing against this legislature race. And the Voting Rights Act states that district lines should not be drawn to prevent minorities from having a majority, and that the lines respect, here's the important part, communities of interest, national, geographic, and man-made boundaries. And part of the challenge that we have here is that if you dilute the voice of particular citizens and districts, specifically East Central, we have low-income neighborhoods that have under-resourced schools, and they'd be answered by the same school board representative who must listen to the voters whose children need to go to those schools, and there's a disparity that's created. And while I understand that you're looking to Ogden School District to do those things, you have the ultimate authority, and that also plays into the precinct districts that you're voting. If you're going to bring East Bench into East Central, we have socioeconomic groups that are going to have diluted representation by more powerful voices in a blended and rich and poor district. It's really important you consider that. And again, while I am not speaking officially, you will be contacted by the NAACP in Ogden, as well as other groups that are champions for our BIPOC communities. Thank you.
Thank you. And looks like one more. Shelley has her hand raised, so we'll go ahead and allow her to speak. Go ahead, Shelley, the time is yours.
Excuse me, I was muted. Thank you. I'm Shelley Moss. I live at 1271 West, 200 South, down by the BDO and the buildings that are going up. And I just had a question addressed to the council as far as, is there a plan? Is this the first time you're hearing of the concerns of the citizens across from these buildings as far as icy roads and security and noise and lighting and internet? So is there a plan to address these concerns? Or now having heard them, will there be a plan to address these concerns from Ogden City?
Is that all your comments, Shelley?
Yes, that's just the question that I had.
Okay, we'll go ahead and take those and then try to answer them when we're all, after public comments over. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other comments from anyone here in the chambers? Thank you all. If not, we'll go ahead and move to comments from the administration.
Sure, and I'm very well aware that there's nothing I can say that would calm your fears or take away the intrusion of what's happened out there. There's not a person on the dais right now that was here when these contracts were agreed to and signed upon. I can assure you that our legal department and our planning department have held Boyer accountable to the agreements that were signed 22 plus years ago. And I just, my heart breaks, and I wish I had more information and felt like I could come in and give you a glimmer of hope. What they're doing right now has been overly reviewed and compared to the contract, and I just don't know that there's a legal position for us to come in and do anything at this point. My heart breaks for you all. I'd be more than happy to come out. I'm out there at least once a month and looking at that, and would be more than happy to have you yell at me, tell me what a bad decision that was all those years ago or anything else, and I will certainly take the brunt of that, but they have lived up to their contract and the negotiated deal that was set up a long time ago, and my heart does break for everybody. I don't have anything else I can really or should add to that other than my heart does break, and I feel for you all, and I'd be more than happy if you want to send invites to my office to come out and to talk to you about that. I don't know that there's a whole lot of compensation or anything else that can come out of the city for agreements that were set up that long ago, but I just know that I do feel for every one of you. We've listened to you. We care about our neighbors. We've done that a lot. We've sent equipment and services and everything else when our neighbors have needed it. We continue to make that promise, and we're.
Hey.
So I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Okay. Comments from council members.
I had some questions about what these community members came to talk about today. The mayor just answered a few of them. But before I said that, I also, like the mayor said, I went in and started looking at pictures of what these citizens are talking about, because I didn't get a chance to see that on the newspaper, and I was having, as they were speaking, I was having a hard time picturing in my head, and I do see what's happening. I see the frustration, but it's also it is burning in me also to hear this gentleman here swearing in the chambers, and I don't appreciate that. So I need to make that clear also. Mayor, I hear what you mentioned, and I understand the contractual agreements and all of that. And I know that from that point, from that perspective, that there's not much we could do or the city could do. I have no knowledge of course, about what those legal documents say, etc. And like you said, your heart breaks. And when I'm hearing these residents speak, I'm just wondering, and I'm thinking, what consideration was given to, even besides the legal agreements, what consideration was given to the effects of these buildings are having now in these people's homes, even though it sounds like it wasn't even in your tenure, but it sounds to me like there could always be revisions, there could always be considerations, there could always be amendments, there could always be I don't know. And so I'm wondering if this is something that the administration has been hearing about for a while, and I'm just curious. I'm just really trying to take all this in because I'm having a hard time.
Well, and I am too, and we've heard about this. And what we'll do is we'll go back and we'll talk to Boyer, and Boyer's doubled down their outreach and tried to reach out and to engage the public and engage the neighbors. And I see a bunch of shaking heads no, but we've heard reports that are otherwise, and we've demanded that they do that, and we've had them come in and give reports on what they've done prior. In 2000, when BDO came online, there was nothing out there, and it's grown tremendously. They're 38 years ahead of schedule in terms of the build out of that Army Depot land, and we've had them in after some of these city council meetings and demanded that they do more outreach and engage with the public that's out there and the neighbors that they're impacting and affecting. And we've had positive reports for efforts that have been made. They've been a tremendous partner for Ogden City. They've been responsive to our requests. We'll take this back again, and we'll demand that they listen to this council meeting and have conversations about the impacts. And beyond that, like I said, this is a contract that was put in play 22 years ago, and we can demand accountability from them managing to the details of that contract. And beyond that, I don't know that we have a lot of ability to do much else there. And so we'll demand that they listen to this council meeting and hear the complaints and the concerns from the neighbors that they're impacting. And we can certainly report back to the council on what some of their plans are.
There was also a question about the snow removal or the
Chair.
increased ice. Will we
I was going to ask about 1,200. Is
take
that
care of that, or?
If I, Chair,
Yep.
I see hands going up, and I don't know if you would need to explain to our
I can
people
explain.
that we can't take questions, just so they understand. But
Yeah.
because I can sense the need that they want to have to engage with us. But if you don't mind explaining the rules, or
Yeah, we have public comment time, and then and now we address those items that were raised during public comments. It's not a question and answer.
I would like this response. Go back and look at the original documents between Mary Slaterville and BDO and Ogden City, the federal government, because it wasn't BDO at the time. Would you go back and look at those?
We're certainly happy to do that. And the question that came up about snow removal and sunshine and everything else will be part of us demanding that BDO and Boyer listens to this council meeting and addresses all those concerns. And then we can get a report that we're willing to give back to you all about how they plan to remediate some of those questions and some of those concerns.
Thank you.
Can I just add, is 1,200 our street or Marriott Street at Slaterville's?
It's Marriott Slaterville.
Okay, no, I was just curious.
That was another one of my questions. Okay. Okay.
Well, it seems, I don't know how much can be done. It looks like something can, though, and we ought to address what we can do. They mentioned noise, light, and litter. Certainly, those are manageable issues. And we gotta, kind of point those out. The internet, that's probably not a concern I would have anticipated, but I can see how it's a problem, you know, since it's, I guess it's a satellite deal, is that satellite? Yeah. So, you know, I can see that that's an issue. I don't know if we have any influence on Comcast to
Sounds
get
like
some down in
Comcast
the
is
road.
working.
Yeah.
That's the other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's where we don't
work with
need
the
line of
satellite.
sight. That would be certainly good. You know, like I said, I looked at I read the newspaper article yesterday, and yeah, I don't believe I'd want to live there. Well, especially with the change. I mean, you know, after years and years of what you've experienced, and then to have that, it certainly would be discouraging. But what we can do is what we should do.
Mhm.
That's all I'm saying. So.
Yep, agree.
And I know, I mean, I even talked to Carrie about this when I was first running for office. You know, the lights and different things have been issues over the years, but I guess I thought those had subsided, you know, in some way since I hadn't heard about it. But I'm glad we're getting this raised to our attention.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm Councilmember Hyde, when you say you wouldn't want to live there, right? I mean, I can see where these citizens are coming from.
Sure.
And I agree, and everything they talked about resonates with me, which is, I mean, again, I went in and looked at I opened up Google Maps, and I went in and you know, everything they say, if I open my doors, and I just looked at a big wall like that, would be terrible. I'm thinking about, I would not ever dare to put words in other people's mouths, but I'm thinking about Councilman Nadolski's home, and if that happened in his property, what would be the feeling of neighbors in that space, which would be tremendously just terrible. So I'm at a loss of words, honestly, because it feels like mitigating the concerns with internet and noise and things like that is yeah.
That's fixable. Your view and stuff like that, and what you've lost, it's not fixable. You know, they'll work the internet out.
Yeah. So
It's more than that.
Thank you.
So I'll just say what I'll say with kindness and love. Again, I just seen in the years that I've been here a similar pattern to what I'm hearing from these residents, which is somewhat lack of care to these sort of things. It happened. It also happened when there was an attempt to take over the land of the Nature Center a few years back, and the council wasn't in the know about it. So the only thing the only thing I can
I'm going to correct that and
today-
say that was absolutely false.
Go ahead,
If
Mayor.
you look
Go ahead,
at the letter to Representative Bishop, that was exclusively carved out of that. So that's an absolute false.
What was carved out of it?
The Nature Center. That was never an attempt.
I'm sorry.
So
what
that was
was
never an attempt. And I would appreciate if that's going to be called out, that you look at the letter that was sent to Representative Bishop and not put us.
Oh no, I
hang us in
apologize
the
if I
public
misspoke. So could you help me clarify what was going to
a
be
recreational easement that was on the fairgrounds that Stadler Rail was hoping for? It was a parking agreement for the fairgrounds. That was the only thing that we asked be taken off. It was never a part. In fact, we spoke out specifically in support of the Nature Center. So I have to correct that.
Okay. But the council wasn't in the know about that, right? We didn't know until the letter was gone and it was
about the parking agreement,
right?
The recreational parking agreement,
right? Correct. We didn't know,
but it was not the Nature
Okay.
Center.
My apologies for me speaking about that. My apologies. The reason why I said that is because I remember that people that worked at the nature center had some great concerns about what was happening. They contacted us, and I went personally to talk to them, and they had some great concerns because they didn't know either what was happening. So that's why I was making that connection. But yeah, definitely. So, all I can do at this point is just, again, as always, speak my mind and my heart and leave it at that for now, because I don't know that there's a solution for this today. So thank you.
I just have a really quick follow-up, and I guess I'm just curious because there was some kind of meeting that everybody was invited to. So was that, I guess, what is our noticing policy when things affect people outside of our city that are happening? I just don't know what that policy is. Sorry, Greg. You're the expert tonight.
So what the reference was is when they decided to subdivide the lots, we send notices to everyone within 300 feet of the proposed subdivision, which was those people who were along 1200 West. So it was about them subdividing the lots. And as was mentioned, the construction had already begun because you don't need to have the lot subdivided to begin building. And so they were building within the permitted ordinance, but the notice was about the subdivision, which required that hearing.
Right. So on any boundary, it would still be the 300?
Correct.
Okay.
Any other comments from council members?
I don't have a comment about this, but I do want to follow up by saying and comment about the comment that Angel made. We are asking questions, and one of the things that we do a lot of is throwing out ideas and throwing out different information to see what is important and what isn't important. And so to have an open and transparent conversation is really hard sometimes. And I just, it's just really unfortunate that we are sometimes in the public eye a lot, but at least we have those conversations. So I'm proud that we were even able to have that conversation, and it may not be the right thing for us to do, and I think probably ultimately we decided that tonight, but that was, anyways, I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, I even mentioned in our conversation that I was concerned about the very issue that she was bringing up.
Okay, if there's no other comments, we do have another meeting after this, so I would entertain a motion.
Chair, I would make a motion then that we adjourn into a closed executive session for one of the 7 items listed.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion to adjourn into a closed executive session by Councilmember Heyer and a second by Councilmember Chaburka. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Heyer.
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez.
Aye.
Councilmember Chaburka. Aye. Vice Chair White.
Aye.
Chair Blair.
Aye. Thank you.